Are you ready, niggas? Got to be ready. Are you ready, niggas? Got to be ready. Are you ready?
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor and privilege to present Last Poets.
Take your time. Take your time.
At ease.
Take your time.
At ease with the source.
Take your time.
I revel in the silent song of the breeze.
Time.
The oppression that begins each moment comes to grip with the mind's eye. In the dark green density of the forest, there was a place where all beings, all consciousness, all experience comes together in the flight of the wasp. In the darkness and secrecy.
Revolution has come. It's time to pick up the gun. It's time to pick up the gun. The revolution has come. It's time to pick up the gun.
New York City is a place where junkies prowl with tiger growls in search of one last blow. And winos sing doing their thing as they find their graves in snow. And young girls in vice sell love for a price, and even the law is corrupt. And they all go down crying, but they keep on trying, because New York is a bitter cup.
So gather around, people, while I balance the scales on the roots of rap and the ancient tales. If you don't know the roots from the trunk of the tree, you won't know the branch and what the fruit will be. You got to first understand the surrounding mystery of rap in relationship to so-called history. History is distorted, so it ain't all there. So let's examine the truth so we can clear the air.
The grandfather of rap.
Black Power was the slogan of the day. I mean, we was trying to empower ourselves as a people.
Go back, Black. See yourself.
We had a black consciousness, and we was holding on to it for dear life.
One of the last poets, good brother here, man.
On the subway!
The last poet's name was up here on the Apollo. A standing ovation. We was the voice of the people of the streets.
They innovated a model to deliver thoughts and ideas.
Me knowing me, black proud and determined to be free.
Others went a different route. They beat a different drum, but that drum was a little thin and a little lighter. But some people put the lion skin on, tightened it up, and said, boom, 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 we want freedom. That was the last poet.
We had a Toastmaster, his name was Bo Dick Biddle, and he was a jailbird, and he'd be running it down.
I was standing on the corner in the middle of the street.
He's the one that brought jail toast to me. He understood that this art form had the potential to go way beyond where they were.
The most epic and greatest of them all, which is Hustlers Convention, it's a cornerstone in the development of what is now a part of global culture.
So I thought I'd nonchalantly mention the Hustlers Convention taking place at the end of July.
But it was influential in a way that's so good, and it's so ambitious, and it tells such an enormous story.
It was a full moon in the middle of June in the summer of '59. I was young and cool, shot a bag in the pool, hustle all the chumps I could find.
It was a full moon in the middle of June in the summer of '59. I was young and cool and shot a bad game of pool and hustle all the chumps I could find. I
was snorting skag while other kids played tag.
I was a downstairs dream, a hustler supreme, and there was no game that I couldn't play.
And if I caught a dude cheating, I would give him a beating, and I might even blow him away.
Dude, you couldn't put that shit on the radio. You couldn't talk the truth.
There was no more singing. There was no more dancing. Nobody was playing music anymore. You know, everybody was out chasing dope, man.
Once people see that piece for what it actually was meant to be, is timeless. It helped the guys who actually made it. It helped me.
I had no clue it was going to do what it did, and it's probably one of the most sampled, stolen albums ever made.
It became like a whale in the water. The sharks had a feast on it, stripped it down to the bone, but the bone was petrified, so they couldn't chew on that.
Over all these decades, you know, he continues to work and invest his life in this vaccination that will cure what ails us.
This is the hustler's ascension, man.
It had cost me 12 years of my time to realize what a nickel and dime hustler I had really been, while the real hustlers were ripping off billions from the unsuspecting millions who are programmed to think they can win.
My poetry reflected that anger, that bitterness sometimes.
New York, Def Poetry, please give it up for Mr. Felipe Luciano.
Too many of us grew up in the projects and did bids in the joint together to have anyone divide us on the basis of language. Mambo is black, merengue is black, R&B is black, joropo is black, flamenco is black, guaguancó is black, bomba is black. Be careful. They will come to you and say, be careful with those hordes of Spanish people. Fuck them. Jíbaro. Mi negro lindo, de los bosques de caña, caciques de luz, tiempo es una cosa cómica. Jíbaro, my pretty nigga. Father of my yearning for the soil, the land, the earth of my people. Father of the sweet smells of fruit in my mother's womb, the earth brown of my skin, the thoughts of freedom that butterfly through my insides. Jíbaro, my pretty nigga. Sweating bullets of blood and bedbugs, swaying slowly to a softly strummed 5-string guitar, remembering ancient empires of sun gods and black spirits and things that were once so simple. How times have changed men. How men have changed time. Unnatural, screams the wind. Unnatural. Jíbaro, my pretty nigga man. Fish smells and cane smells and fish smells and cane smells and tobacco and oppression makes even God smell foul. As foul as the bowels of the ship that vomited you up on the harbor of a cold metal city to die. No sun, no sand, no palm trees. And you clung to the slimy rib of an animal called the marine tiger in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen. Jíbaro, did you know you my nigga? I love the curve of your brow, the slant of your baby's eyes, the calves of your woman dancing. I dig you, you can't hide. I ride with you on subways. I touch shoulders with you and dance. I make crazy love to your daughter, yeah! You my cold nigga man. And I love you cause you mine. And I'll never let you go. I will never let you go, you mine nigga. And I'll never let you go. Forget about self. We're together now. And I'll never let you go. Never, nigga.
The global economy becomes a global slave. Whom do we dispose of and whom do we save?
The reign of modern day Western civilization has devastated the planet Earth.
I'm the father of the rappers, and I come to say you have to learn to rap in a certain way. Can't be all boogie, can't be all play. You need to check out the scene and have something to say. You need to use lively colors, not commercialized gray, and educate the people to a brand new day. Because I was rapping before you were born, and I'll be rapping after you're gone. Because I'm rapping about the dawn. There's a new freshness coming on. I've been rapping a long time, rapping about victims accused of crime, rapping about folks, not about jokes, about folks in the ghetto, struggling for life, young boys carrying a gun or a knife, old folks scared to go outside, people living without any pride. Lots of folks like to party today, most of them just running away, trying to escape by staying high. Meanwhile, life is passing them by. When you understand life and know the real deal, that's when you can party for real. Because I'm the father of the rappers. And I come to say you have to learn to rap in a certain way. Can't be all boogie, can't be all play. You got to check out the scene and have something to say. You got to use lively colors, not commercialized gray, and educate the people to a brand new day. Because I was rapping before they were born, and I'll be rapping after they're gone.
Are you ready, niggas? You got to be ready. Are you ready, niggas? You got to be ready.
Jazz is the American classical music. It's America's only classical music. It's jazz.
Boom! The brother went off. Pressure pulled the trigger. And the brother became a nigger. And no one could figure out what happened, what went wrong. He had a chance. Somebody even loved him. Told him he was better than most. But he went off. Chains rattled inside his brain, and his sky was filled with clouds that didn't even bring rain, but just the illusion that something was coming. So he became a gun that he could hide in a jacket and make believe he had an erection all the time. Grenades in their eyes, grenades in their eyes. Death is their prize, death is their prize. Peace will arise, peace will arise. Destroy the lies, destroy the lies. Grenades in their eyes, grenades in their eyes. Death is their prize, death is their prize. Peace will arise, peace will arise. Destroy the lies, destroy. So he became G.I. Joe. Killing his family, not the enemy. A human gun made and manufactured in the United Snakes of America.
Niggas talk about fucking that, fucking this, fucking yours, fucking my sis, not knowing what they fucking for. Ain't fucking for love and appreciation, just fucking to be fucking. Niggas fuck white thighs, brown thighs, yellow thighs. Niggas fuck ankles when they want out of thighs. Niggas fuck Linda, Sally, and Sue. And if you don't watch out, niggas will fuck you. Niggas will fuck if it could be fuck. But when it comes to fucking for revolutionary causes, niggas say, fuck revolution. Niggas are scared of revolution. Niggas are players. Ooh, niggas are players. Niggas play football, baseball, and basketball while a white man is cutting off their balls. When a niggas play, ain't tight enough to play with some black thighs. Niggas play with white thighs to see if they still have some play left. And there ain't no white thighs to play with. Niggas play with themselves. Niggas will tell you they're ready to be liberated, but when you say let's go take our liberation, niggas reply, oh, I was just playing. Niggas are playing with revolution and illusion. Niggas are scared of revolution. Niggas do a lot of shooting. Niggas do a lot of shooting. Niggas shoot out the mouth. Niggas shoot pool. Niggas cut around the corners and shoot down the street. Niggas shoot sharp glances at white women. Niggas shoot dope into their arms. Niggas shoot guns and rifles on New Year's Eve. A New Year that is coming in, but white police will do more shooting at them. Where niggas when the revolution needs some shot? Yeah, you know, niggas are somewhere shooting the ship. Niggas are scared of revolution.
Hello, everybody. My name is Doug E. Fresh. Ever since the game, before my name, these culture icons, original dons, some left the stain while others remain on top and don't stop in this field of hip hop. To this day, son, they get much props. Just like R&B got the four tops, the last poets are the reason why we got hip hop. And it don't stop. To the very last drop.
So it's 50 years of the last poets. 50 years of the last poets. We're celebrating the 50th anniversary of the last poets. And this is a significant time because not only are we talking about 50 years of revolutionary struggle, 50 years of laying down poetry that exemplifies human rights, civil rights, Pan-African struggle, Black power. You're looking at a group of brothers that never faltered in what they were about. I mean, imagine 50 years, everything is going on. Rock, reggae, disco, hip-hop, everything's going on. These brothers remain consistent with their message for 50 years. Now, that alone is significant. But when you go to the beginning of those 50 years, you're talking about the late 60s, early 70s. Now, during this time, this was a very dangerous time for anybody speaking out. Artists were told to sit down, shut up. Artists were being influenced to just go along with the mainstream. Just, play the game and you'll be cool. You'll have money, fame, all of that type of stuff. To be able to turn away from that, to be able to shun that off and sacrifice what you know is a more comfortable life, to sacrifice that for the revolutionary life, for the struggle, for your people to wake up. This is significant. These brothers were talking in a very dangerous time. Every time you looked around, there was another assassination going down. Somebody else was being killed for doing exactly what they were doing, speaking out against injustice. I mean, look at it. You have 1963, you have Medgar Evers assassinated. Right in front of his home, too, by the way. You got 65, Malcolm X assassinated. Right in front of his family, too, by the way. You got 68, Dr. King. You got Fred Hampton from the Black Panther Party assassinated as well. These are major figures that the system is just taking out. Right along with that, you can cower. And you can say, wow, these brothers are getting shot for saying this. Let me just go ahead and sing my song and try to toe the line. Or you could be the last poet, where you step forward, and even though all this is going on in your community, all this is going on during this time, you step forward with a revolutionary message like niggas are scared of revolution. Die, nigga, die. This was crazy during this time. And look at the words I'm using too. I mean, come on, some people could be offended by this. But when you really look at what was being said, this was the only way to say it, to really get the message across. You know, there's a scholar by the name of Dr. Ivan von Sertima, and a late scholar, Dr. Ivan von Sertima. And Dr. Sertima used to always talk about the last man being the first man, the final stage of man, meaning that in paleoanthropology, you got, human beings starting out as natural beings like any other being or animal in the natural world. We start out like this, and through trial and error and awakening of mind and all of this type of stuff through stages, you become the last of an ancient stage. You become the last of a long lineage of trial and tribulation for you to now become the ultimate version of what that lineage was really all about. So when we say when we say the last poets, what we're talking about is the final stage of poetry. We're talking about what poetry has evolved to become, what it is really all about. The last poet. After all of this is where we now arrive at. This is the last poet, the final stage of poetry. These brothers laid it down during a time where it needed to be laid down. You know, there's other times where you could talk revolution and you could try to put a message forward for your people, but it ain't the right time. Everything's cool. Everybody getting money. Everything's good. This is what it is, But they were laying it down at a time where it wasn't cool, where you could be shot dead in the street, arrested for just speaking the way in which they were speaking. Big up to people like Erykah Badu. Shout out to people like Paul Robeson. These are voices that sacrificed a lot, like their fame and their fortune, to make sure that young people like me were inspired and able to see something different than what was being presented by the mainstream. When the Last Poets put their first record out in 1970, I was 5 years old. Okay, they in the background. I could hear in the background of my little 5-year-old self hearing revolutionary struggle going on. And if it wasn't for them, I don't know what I would be influenced today to be like. I'm a product of the Last Poets, straight up and down. And big up to Gil Scott-Heron as well on that. Another brother that they work closely together as well. I'm a product of this. And, you often hear me say as well, it's better to sell 100 records to the right people than 1,000,000 records to the wrong people. And what that means is that it's better to influence 100 people with a good message that's going to inspire them and change the world. Those 100 people are going to change the world with your music, rather than you just sell your music to 1,000,000 people who ain't going to do nothing. They're going to like your music, and that's going to be the end of it. Well, for me, I have to ask myself, well, if that's the case, what does my music mean then? What does it mean? What's the meaning of me? What's the meaning of my music? If when I say it, when I perform it, when I write it, all you're going to do is listen to it and go right back to the same nonsense you were dealing with before you heard my music. It's groups like the Last Poets that influenced me to bring meaning to my music, to bring meaning to what it is I'm going to say. Because when I was 5 years old, they had meaning to what they were saying, and it influenced me to be who I am today. So now you look back on it and you say, there's a kid out there right now, probably watching me right now, watching us right now. And they're being influenced to put their foot on the path of righteousness. They're being influenced to question what's going on around them and not just take for face value. Somebody said this is what it is, so you're just going to go ahead and believe it. The Last Poets, this is a courageous group. This is a group of poets that deserve our highest honor and respect. And I am proud to be part of this lineage, part of this heritage. The Last Poets, 50th anniversary. Have 50 more.
Happy anniversary. Last Poets, KRS-One. Woo! Son One, this beat is hot. Mercy me. Turn it up, make it bump. You the first to see KRS-One. There's no rehearsing me. This is for the Last Poets. It's their 50th anniversary. We focusing on the website. Go to lastpoets.com and get your head right. Me, I'm an MC, the off the head type. While these other rappers showing their cars, I'm showing headlight. Look how I spit it, son. But for real, it's the Last Poets where I get it from. These are revolutionaries, all in my memory. I'm seeing 2020 going back to 1970, before KRS-One and Public Enemy. For that mental slavery, their poetry was the remedy. So here's the challenge. You got skills, show it. It's the 50th anniversary. Are you the last poet?
Yep, calling all poets, MCs, people that put words together. KRS-One said, let's have the Last Poets Challenge. Hashtag Last Poets Challenge. Go to www.lastpoets.com right now and join in and participate in the Last Poets Challenge right now.
Selfish desires are burning like fire.
Brothers and sisters, it's the 50th anniversary of The Last Poets, and I'm honored to be here. My name is Ralph McDaniels from a show called Video Music Box, inspired by the words and the visuals that these brothers put out. And we are going to find out where they came from and where they are now in the next few hours. So The Last Poets, you are here. Brother Obiodun.
The pledge. I want to be what I can be, to be proud, healthy, and free. I want to say what I know to help my brothers and sisters grow. I want to feel good about me and blame no one for my misery, because I'll be strong, turn it around, want to go up, I'm not going down. I want to do what I can do to make all my dreams come true. Remember my past, the good and bad, how I made it art even when it was sad. I want to share whatever my gift, and when you're feeling low, I'll give you a lift. I want to live without fear and know that I'm blessed for being here, and know that I'm blessed for being here, and know that I'm blessed.
Thank you, brother. Now, I want everybody to introduce themselves, and also, after you introduce yourselves, please tell us the members of the Last Poets over the years who are not here today so we can pay homage to them as well. So I'll start with Umar.
Oh, this is Umar Ben Hassan of the Last Poets, and I'm in Flint, Michigan. Thank you very much.
Brother Felipe.
Felipe Luciano. I'm in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And the one who is not with us is Galen Kane.
Yes, Brother Baba.
I am Baba Don Babatunde in New York City, Harlem, and I am here.
Abiodun.
My name is Abiodun, and I'm in New York, and we lost Brother Jalal last year, and we lost Suleiman El Hadi some years before. David Nelson is around somewhere. He is still David Nelson, and he's alive and well, and he's here. But so far, the 7 poets actually who graced the stage, out of those 7, 2 have gone on to the other dimension, and 5 of us are still alive.
Well, there are actually 3 because there's an Elijah, right?
Yeah, well, yes. If you consider, when you consider the drum, see, the drum has to be considered a poet as well because it's poetry.
Thank you.
I know Baba won't let you get away with that.
Gotta give the drummer some. Gotta give the drummer some.
Please. Let me say this. Back in the day, and Felipe was there, he remembers, if you had a new poem that you wanted to add to the program, you had to get on stage and do your poem for the rest of the guys in the group. Elijah kept his conga drum very nearby. It was in a duffel bag. Now, if you got on that stage and you started doing your poem and Elijah did not unravel the duffel bag to get to the head so he could play the you might as well throw that poem up. And I had that horrible experience of being rejected one time, and I wanted to hurt somebody because when you get to
you know what? Pack up and leave.
I've written a poem called Get Hip. It was about all the bougie Negroes out in Queens, and I was just blasting them. I was ranting and raving, and I thought the poem was good. I'd even typed it up on my grandfather's Remington typewriter. So I had a 2-page typed up poem that I thought was wonderful. Elijah never even looked at his drum. It was embarrassing. And then Kane said, "We're not reading that shit on stage. That's the most ranting and raving about the people that you are." And I'm going to jump off the stage and punch Kane in the face. But the fact is, man, it's painful when you're taking time to say something that comes from you and it gets denied.
Oh, man.
But it was a lesson. And I recognized even though Elijah probably didn't know anything at all about figurative language, he knew about feelings. And if he couldn't feel you, he couldn't play.
So, you know, let's take it back to May 19th in Mount Morris Park in Harlem. And that particular date and time is very significant for the Last Poets as a movement, you know.
Well, you see, that happened on the heels of April 4th, which was a month away. They just killed Dr. King. So David Nelson had this idea of wanting to put together a collective of poets, and I was in agreement with it, but I didn't really think about it too much until they killed Dr. King. When Dr. King was killed, I lost my mind. It changed everything for me because my family revered him. I could never have marched with him because I didn't believe in turning the other cheek. And I knew I would never be a member of SCLC. But for them to shoot this man down, I thought that was a complete smack in the face of every black person in America. And I wanted to retaliate. Actually, the truth is I wanted to get a gun and start shooting white people. And I felt I needed to do something like that. But I called David and I said, look, the idea of this group that you had, we need to get that together because I got to be a part of a movement. I got to be a part of some kind of activity that's going to help us arrive at another level. Because these white folks are not going to stop. They're going to continue to slaughter us, and I know that. So that's when David said he had met a guy at Columbia University at a poetry reading named Garland Kane, and then he said he put his name and my name and Kane's name on a list for us to read poetry at Mount Morris Park on Malcolm X's birthday commemoration. And I felt very good about that, but to be honest, Brother Ralph, I was intimidated because Harlem has always been a tough audience. And I'm from Queens, and I didn't know if I could really make it happen in Harlem. But I did the smartest thing I could have done. I came to Harlem, I walked around, I listened, I observed, and that's where my first poem came from. The people, the language, the word at the time, the particular line at the time was, "What's your thing, brother?" And like Felipe mentioned earlier, the Muslims, they'd have their thing. I'm a member of the Nation of Islam. There were the Panthers. I'm a Black Panther. There was the Republic of New Africa. I'm a Republic of New Africa powerful. Everybody had a particular thing. So I'm listening and picking up that when you say what's your thing, the response is how are you affiliated with the movement? And there's a movement going on. And if you didn't have any affiliation, then you were an outcast.
Yes, sir.
So I wrote it, and at the same time to show you how much what we say relates to our music. The hit song at that time was the Ozzy Brothers, "It's Your Thing, Do What You Want to Do." So I took that line, "What is your thing?" I wrote a poem, "What is your thing, brother?" I'd heard some students at Howard University chanting, "Are you ready, niggas? You got to be ready." And I told Kane and David, I said, we're going on stage to confirm that we are a group and we're chanting, "Are you ready, niggas?" Maybe people will see us as one unit and we'll get started and just, you do your poem. David had a poem entitled, "Are you ready, black people?" Kane had a poem entitled, "Niggas Are Untogether People." Yes. Those are the first three poems that we did. "Niggas Are Untogether People," "Are You Ready, Black People?" and "What Is Your Thing?" By the time we got to the middle of the stage, chanting, "Are you ready, niggas?" the entire park was chanting, "Are you ready, niggas?" And then the name came later. Our name came from a South African poet named Kelpetsi Kokosili.
Yes.
No one could say his first name because it was South African, it was Zulu. So everybody calls him Little Willie.
So Brother Umar, like we just talked about Dr. King's death, and then, come Malcolm, what were your feelings at that particular time when all of this was happening? Because I remember we were very confused at the time. We were like, okay, so what's happening? All our leaders are being killed. How did you feel at that particular time? Hold up, turn your mic on. Turn your mic.
Your mic. Open your mic.
Okay, you got me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, let me hit up on Elijah for a minute. Okay, because Elijah was very serious about what he wanted to play with. You know, Elijah rejected Niggas Scared of Revolution 3 times.
What?
Yes, he did. At his house, when we was practicing for the poem, He rejected niggas scared of revolution big time. I was getting ready to punch Elijah at one point, you know. But you know, Ann was there, so that's I walked out. So I went back out for about 2 or 3 days, and I just started doing it in a different way. But then when I came back, and I did it the 4th time for him, he accepted it. Because Elijah had a thing about sound and rhythm. If he couldn't get to your sound and your rhythm, you weren't going to do that poem, and that was it. But so I finally got to that sound and that rhythm, and he accepted it. But Elijah was seriously, if he didn't pull that bag open and want to hear your poem, that means you might as well take a walk. But then when he pulled your bag open and ejected 3 times, you must really be doing something stupid. I said, let me go out and try to, learn how to recite this again. I came back the 4th time, he did. Now you asked me a question, brother. What was the question?
You know, around the time when when Brother King, Dr. King was killed, you know, what was your feelings and what happened at that particular time, and how did that affect you as a poet?
Well, at that time, I was in the streets in Akron, Ohio. I was hustling in the streets. I had a job at Firestone Tire and Rubber, and also I had a little hustle on the side. So, I mean, it got to me, but my big thing at that time was trying to make the money, man. Trying to stay ahead of everybody else. But then, when I went to Antioch College to do this thing, like I told you before, I was strapped and all that, and I heard Abiel June and Guyland Kane, and I think Felipe was there at this time, and I heard them do that. I said I wanted to be a last poet. That's what I want to do now. I want to go to New York and be my last poet. And my mother said, you better get out of here, because when they started sending, we had a little riot in Akron, Ohio at that time, and they started, and I was supposedly known as one of the leaders, so forth, and one of the inspirers of it. So the Akron Police Department started sending letters of recruitment to my house. And my mother would read them things. She said, okay, it's time for you to get out of here. You got to get out of here. And this is my mother, God bless her soul. You got to go. So I held on to my job for another week or so, but then I got fired from there because this so-called manager of the plant did not like me, and we got into a little thing, and he fired me. So at that time, here I am, I ain't got no job, I'm fired. So how do I get to New York? I ain't got no money in my pocket at that time. I ain't getting no more paychecks. So I pawned my sister's record player, whose house I am in right now.
That's some cold shit, Umar. That's some cold-hearted shit, man.
And she never lets me forget that.
Hell no, I wouldn't either.
But so I got $25 for the record player, and a ticket that time was $15 from Akron, Ohio to New York. So we stopped in Pennsylvania to get some, Pittsburgh. We always made a stop in Pittsburgh to get some food. I spent $9.78 on food. So when I got on that bus, again, I only had 22 cents. So when I landed at 8th Avenue and 42nd Street at the Greyhound bus station, I only had 22 cents in my pocket. And I had to stuff a little bag of some with some shirts and pants, jeans in it. So now here was the D part. Here comes just Jamaican up on me playing, the handkerchief game. Now I must have, because Dude told me.
Wait, what game? What game was he playing?
The handkerchief game, with the money in the handkerchief and hold on to it. So Dude told me I look like a little. Listen, Dude told me I looked like little Lord Fauntleroy when I landed. So I must have looked like a real country fool to him. So he came up on me. He came up on me with the handkerchief, and I'm like, I'm like, okay, what you want, he could you hold his handkerchief for me? I said, yeah, I hold it for you. Don't you move, stay right here until I get back. So as soon as that food took off, I took off up 9th Avenue to this little place, a little toilet, and I hid behind the toilet, and 10 minutes later, here he comes with the police following him. Yo, man, he got my money. He went this way. So when I opened up the handkerchief, there was $25 in the handkerchief. So I found my way to the subway, and I managed to get up to Dune's house, and he looked at me like, damn.
Oh, yeah?
He's like, he didn't even remember who I was. I'm saying, I'm the brother from the festival in Ohio. He said, oh, you really made it, huh? So I didn't have nowhere to stay. So this is the beautiful part about me. He was going with a sister, a very beautiful sister at that time, Marlena, who was sister.
No names.
This is his daughter. Huh?
Cicely Tyson's daughter.
Yeah, this was Cicely Tyson. She was a pretty girl too. So don't have to. So I stayed at Cicely Tyson's apartment on the west side of
76th Street.
For about 3 days, and then June got me hooked up in the Alamac Hotel, which was for students who couldn't pay the fare to go to City College. So that's how I became a last poet. You know.
So wait a minute now. So. You know, I remember watching Felipe on television, because Felipe, you were in the news all the time. You know, anything that was happening, you know, in El Barrio, you know, we saw that, you know, and I was like, who is this brother here? Because he sounds like the Panthers, but he's Latin. You know, he's a Puerto Rican brother. So the Young Lords were before or after or during the Last Poets?
No, everything starts with the poets. Everything. My language, my form, my enunciation, my articulation, my militancy, my ideology, it all starts with the Last Poets. I had gotten busted in '64 for a homicide. They broke it down to attempted manslaughter 2. Some guy made the mistake of fucking with my brother. I had told him that I don't roll that way. The moment you touch my family, it's a wrap. Now, all of those who have been in intimate contact with Puerto Ricans know that we be fools. We be acting stupid as shit, but our family is sacred, man. And once that happened, I knew the boy had to be taken out. So we went up there, long story short, he got stabbed, not by me, but by somebody else. I would have stabbed him probably. So he's dead, now I'm in jail. Those 2 years in jail started forming the basis of my character. Because in jail, either you die or you live. You've got to make a decision. You can die inside too. You got to make a decision who you are. Are you going to be somebody's bitch? Or are you going to take care of yourself? You don't have to be an aggressor or a predator, but you have to know who you are. So I started with that. Thank God I had some guys in there. I was close to the Harlem Six, who were a group of cats from 125th Street, convicted of murder, who I stayed close to all my life. And they helped me. Then there was a guy named Diablo. I was crying in the day room. There were about 30 guys in there. But I locked myself in the slop sink, which is where they keep the mops. And I was crying. And this guy, Diablo, who I learned I later learned his name was Diablo, knocks on the door and said, you better open this damn door. And I put cold water on my face and I tried to walk away. And every time I tried to walk to the left, he moved to the right. When I moved to the right, he moved to the left. His arms were diesel. He had a waist that was about as thin as a wasp, and he had shoulders that were huge. The man was a physical miracle. And he said, what the fuck are you crying for? I said, I got 5 years for murder. He said, 5 years for murder? And he grabbed me by the shirt, twisted it like this, just twisted it. And he said, the next time I hear you crying over the pound you got, 5 years, what we call it a pound, he said, I'm gonna bust your ass. And he picked up the ringer, the mop ringer, which used to be made of metal. And he picked it up and held it horizontally. Now, I don't know if you've ever tried that, so even with plastic, holding it horizontally, I said, this boy, I don't know, if I have to fight him, I will, but damn, he's strong. So he said, let me tell you, he said, turn around. And I didn't turn around. He said, fuck you, I'm gonna point out the people. And he called everybody in the day room, at least 25 of them. How much time you got? 25 to life. He said, what did you get it for? He said, felonious assault. He said, did you hear me, baby boy? Felonious assault. You went for murder, and this cat got 25 years for felonious assault. Rice, how much time you got? He was one of the, he said, life, I got life. He said, for what? He said, for bullshit I didn't. He went around the room. And the tears started coming. He said, man, no, don't fucking cry now. You came out with your bullshit. 5 years, you had rabbis, you had priests, you had preachers writing you character references, writing you letters of commendation. I said, I didn't know. He said, I know it. By the way, in the joint, they know more about your life than you think. They know why you got busted. Yeah. They know who recommended you. They know everything. These cats are so hooked up in terms of administration. So he said, so now you got 5 years. You're 16. He said, the next motherfucking time I hear you crying, I'm gonna bust your ass with this hot ringer. He said, now go on about your motherfucking self. So I didn't like the way he was talking to me. And I said, hey man, why don't you put some shade on, you know, cool out. He said, cool out?
And he came at me, and we started sparring. And he said, at least your heart ain't pumping Kool-Aid, because I wasn't about to let him fuck with me. So I'm looking for a knife to stab this motherfucker. I'm looking for a knife. We used to call them Don Juans. They're the things that hold up the artificial ceilings. You sharpen them, and you stick a cat 3 buttons down. Count 3 buttons from the collar button, from the top, and that's the heart. You take him out. So I'm looking to take this boy. He's, well, at least your heart ain't pumping Kool-Aid. And he and the way I began to respect, I was pretty good with my hands. I'm moving around. He stepped on my foot and gave me what we call a bolo punch. A bolo punch is you come up from behind and you hit the guy with this part of the hand, not this. Yeah. Bang on my head. And I said, my teeth chattered. I felt like chalk in my mouth. And he said, that's to let you know that this is street fight. This is jail fighting. This is not kidding around to see who can smack and who can. This is if you're going to live or die. He said, you'll learn, nigga. I'm not going to be around all the time, but you're going to learn. And then he put his arm around me. I said, man, thanks so much, man. You like an angel for me. He said, no, my name is Diablo, and walked away. So now I come out. It's 1966. I go up to Elmira. I do a bid. I do my 2 years, because I only got 2 years, and for good behavior. I come back out. I'll tell you stories about that later. But I come back out, and I meet a guy named Victor Hernandez Cruz, who's one of the finest Puerto Rican poets in the world, who had just published a book called Snaps, a great book by Random House. And I'm with him in his loft. He had a place, there was a community house, and they used to house poets, and he used to let you sleep there and stuff. It was one of East Harlem, 102nd Street. So I'm there, 104th Street, between Lexington and Park. So he's writing his poems in the loft. And I looked at it, he had one of those electric Remingtons in those days. And he was doing his thing. And I said, wait, I can do that. I like words. And I wrote a few things. He said, you're pretty good, man. That's pretty good. And you never did this before? I said, I write, but I never wrote poetry. All I knew was Robert Frost, and Yeats, and who was the other guy? Leaves of Grass, Walt Whitman. I mean, I knew that stuff, but I didn't know any black poets. I didn't know poetry. So he said, listen, there's a group forming up in Harlem on 125th Street called the Last Poets. Why don't you go up there and see if you can work with them? I go up there and I meet Kane, who's sitting like King Lear on the stage. And he said, and I go up to him and tell him, look, I want to do this. I heard that you're looking for poets. He said, we're not looking for poets, but if you'd like to join, we'd like you to do something. What can you do? Are you a carpenter? Are you can you put together brick? What can you do? I said, sure, of course I'm a carpenter, lying my ass off. And he said, well, we need a stage door. We need something, you build something, because I'm doing a play called, what was it, Dune? Coagulated Trinity?
Ever to the Coagulated Trinity.
So he said, can you build the door? I said, of course I can. I couldn't do this for shit. Abio Dune knew I couldn't do it. And Elijah knew I couldn't do it. David Nelson, I couldn't, but I lied my ass off because I wanted this. Finally, I put some shit together, some rickety shit together, and we did it. As I began to listen to the poets, listening to Dune, listening to David, listening to Galen Kane, and by the way, those are the original. We call ourselves, even some of us call ourselves the original last poet. Those were the poets. And let me make that clear. It was Abio Dune, it was Galen Kane, it was David Nelson. Abio Dune was the person who connected totally to the popular street culture of that time. He was a rapper before the rappers, way before the rappers.
That's it.
I want to ask Abio Dune a question real quick, Felipe, because you know I've heard this story about him and Nina Simone having.
No. Let's not go there. Let's not go there. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that.
No.
Let me tell you something about Dune. Dune had more beautiful women in the 2 or 3 years that I was there. He had a woman named Noelle. I could tell you stories. And he was called the Gas Man. He had a poem called the Gas Man. This motherfucker would do things I couldn't believe the shit he would do. He would have one come in before the performance, and she would leave. Then another come in during the performance, and then she would leave. And then another one come in. I said, "This man is Puerto Rican. He's got to be something. This man ain't real."
I thought he was a pimp. I thought he was a pimp.
Yeah, well, he should have been. Because he was doing well with.
I was trying to.
No, don't put no shade on it, Baba. And he was making money. They gave him money. And we were struggling. They gave him fucking money. So now I'm saying to myself, and these were elegant. I'm not talking about sisters that, you know, jump in your face. I'm talking about elegant women.
Felipe.
What?
Too much information.
Fuck it. Fuck it.
All right, hold that thought.
I just talked about the Gas Man. I was like saying, yo, the Gas Man was about, you know, the pimp and the guy.
Yeah. Well, he was. This guy was a legend. Now what happens is eventually I said, I got to be part of this group, man. I got to do it. I just love the way they roll. And we had a second floor loft up there, and sure enough, I started writing poetry. The first poem I wrote was called "The Forest," and I figured, and I thought I would do a lot of alliteration. Like if you have a B, you use a lot of B words. If you have an F, so I started by saying, "In the forest, faces follow, and Abiodun put his fucking head down." And he wasn't laughing, but he put his head down. Kane said, David didn't say anything because he was just being cool. And Kane said, "Don't ever, what the fuck is that? What is it?" I said, "But that's the poem, and I'm trying to talk about the forest. I'm using a metaphor." Abiodun said, "Man, please cut that shit out. I mean, that has nothing to do with anything. What are you doing?" So then Kane told me, so this is all that I'm putting. Abiodun just talked about him feeling like shit. I felt worse than shit. I wanted to jump out the second floor window. I said, "I'm never coming back to these motherfuckers again." Then insulted my meter and my tone. And sure, but they were right. It was horrible. It was a horrible poem.
Well, hold that thought, because we have some folks that want to get on and talk about the Last Poets and wish you a 50th anniversary. So don't go nowhere. We'll be right back.
All right, here we go. We have actor Khalil Kane in the house.
What's happening, y'all?
Hey, man, huge fan.
Thanks.
You know, obviously, I saw Juice in the theaters. Incredible film. Still a classic to this day.
Yeah.
Still a classic to this day, you know, and you had one of the main roles in it. So let's go ahead and get into all that. But before we actually talk about the movie, your dad is actually Guyland Kane from The Last Poets.
Yes. Well, he's one of the original Last Poets. It was Guyland Kane, Felipe Luciano, and David Nelson. Abiodun, some of the other cats came in after. So yeah, you know, there's definitely a legacy there also, culturally,
right,
so to speak.
Right, and The Last Poets, I mean, were kind of the precursors to rappers in a way.
Yeah, without a doubt. It was an interesting childhood, kind of traveling around a little bit. There was a space uptown called the East Wind that he had that was very similar to, you know, like the Shrine, you know, Femi Kuti. So there were a lot of people that came through there, you know. Panthers would be up in there, Young Lords would be up in there, you know, Gil Scott-Heron was up in there, Amiri Baraka, you know, all people would come up and just get up and perform. Ntozake Shange, you know, so hearing these kinds of things at a very young age was something that kind of I've been carrying around in my back pocket for all these years.
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel that along with Gil Scott-Heron, the Last Poets were sort of like the main voices, the main musical voices, you know, for social change during that era.
Yeah, I don't know. With Pops, I think it was more a matter of self-expression. Even now, I think it's important for people to kind of find their voice. With the advent of social media, I think everybody kind of feels like they have the freedom to have a voice, but with everybody watching, now I think we sort of, I don't know, censor ourselves a little more because there's such a big audience, because so many people are watching on a daily basis. So I think back then there was a lot less self-censorship, and it was a way for a young man, speaking of my father, speaking of somebody like Felipe Luciano, who I still know very well, to get it off. You know, say what was burning in their gut, you know, and say it to people that were really listening and about it, you know.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, what's up, y'all? You know who it is, your boy Kiss. Right now, I just want to take the time out to shout out to the Last Poets on their 50th anniversary of their self-titled debut album. You know, brothers like them made brothers like me want to inspire, write raps with a purpose. You know what I mean? Make songs like Why, make songs like We Gonna Make It, and just be creative, you know, in my own art form. If it wasn't for dudes like them, it'd never be brothers like myself. So, you know, without further ado, I just want to give big shout outs and salutes to the Last Poets. 50th anniversary of the self-titled debut album. It's a beautiful thing, beautiful milestone. Let's all salute them. One love, y'all.
What's happening? This is David Banner. I want to say happy 50th anniversary to the Last Poets. Thank you guys for your sacrifice. Thank you for your love. And definitely thank you for your sound.
First and foremost, I want to give my salams and salute to the family. And start off like this. Congratulations, giving these roses and flowers to the Last Poets. Celebration of their 50th self-titled album. I mean, how monumental is that, man? Don't mind me looking on my Logan Wolverine right now. You know, this is what quarantine got us at. But we're blessed we still here. Every day above ground is a great one. But this is for the people, the guys who brought us countless amount of gems and classic as young black men growing up in the environment that we are. It talks to me, especially because being an artist, you know, it helps find the ways to put different words together and more of a meaning to reach out there, that'll get it out there to the people out there listening. So once again, I salute you. Thank you for standing the test of time and just being the great vessels that you are. Celebration 50th, man. You that's just so big, man. It's monumental. Anyway, Tekka Smith & Wesson, you know how we do it. Salute to the family once again. And yeah, stay loyal, stay mighty, stay shining. To each and everybody out there, stay safe, stay healthy. Salute.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is your man, Fatim.
And this is Aja.
And we're Kindred, the Family Soul. It's been 50 years since the debut self-titled album by the Last Poets, the fathers of the spoken word and fathers of hip-hop.
Congratulations and much respect due.
Peace. A few years back, I had the opportunity to work with Mr. Abedun in a session. I never forget what he told me. He said, to make your music cut and heal like a two-edged sword. And I never forgot that. It's always been my approach ever since then in making music. He really affected me. And I just want to say, Last Poets forever. Always been one of my biggest influences in their music, speaking truth to power and enlightening our people at the same time. Love.
Good evening. My name is Aja Monet, and this is my small tribute to the Last Poets. I'm so grateful for their contribution to our culture and to our people. I would not be here without those who have come before me. And so I am so honored and grateful to our elders, the true library of the movement. And so here we go. This is a small poem for the Last Poets. Guardian godfathers of spirit, sound, and word, poetic portals of soul and survival, lyrical shapeshifter, masters of ceremonies drumming in the chest, heaven-born black angels wingless, and Shango warrior tongue. Morning suns risen of a mothered hum, prayers in the dark hull of a ship washed ashore, in a Harlem corner store, Bra Willie brothers beaming, meaning of this madness made America all in all when it's said and done. When the rhythms run and the records spun, we never lacked for love. Poetry in our blood, ancestors battling in a soul cipher, freedom dreams howling in the holy depths, hieroglyphs on our inner city hearts. We pledge allegiance forever and always to the last poets, the beginning and the end.
Selfish desires are burning like fire.
Welcome back. I'm Ralph McDaniels. It's all about the last poets today. It's the 50th anniversary, and we have some special guests, fellas, that are here to participate and show love to everything that you have given us. And we have the brother Chuck D from Public Enemy in the building, here to say some few words. Chuck, where you at, man?
Yes.
Hey, there he is.
Chuck.
There he is.
Good to see you, man.
Great to see y'all. I've been seeing y'all right throughout this. Y'all just didn't see me.
Hey, Chuck, what does the last poets mean to you, man, as a young man coming up, man?
Brothers that are able to make words turn into actions. I mean, I was fortunate to have some older uncles, and they locked into the last poets in the late 60s, early 70s. So you couldn't help but hear their voices, and their voices is what attracted you to, you know, listening. And then what they were saying is something that you could get into later, but they was clear. And, you know, a lot of people spoke like that where I was growing up in New York. They spoke like that in their normal way of speaking, but also they hear it with rhymes, and hear it on a record was just, you know, that lit me up as a young person. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Those are influential ages. So hearing the last poets put it to record was just quite riveting, and those records were played around me. So, and then, you know, later on I heard Gil Scott-Heron. Later on I heard the Isley Brothers cursing a record that was on the radio, like the power. And then it was like, okay, you know, this is something that was in the bloodstream that I heard before, that I really kind of like wasn't really supposed to be around too often, but the records were there and the voices were heard and the voices were clear. The voices were clear. That's one thing about it. The voices were very clear. I grew up in a Motown, Stax, Atlantic, Jazz, James Brown household. So the records were there, as well as Red Fox and Dick Gregory. So the records were collected, and when the records were played, they were distinct.
Hey, let's talk about that, because, you know, spoken word on records, comedy on records, you know, we don't really see that now. This show is about bridging the gap. We don't really hear too many comedians being signed. And even, Chuck, when you first started, you know, that wasn't, what you did was not normal for what everybody else was doing at that particular time. You brought a new style of presenting your words.
Today there's a habit that's been formed by technology that everybody could agree, especially on this Zoom call, is that unfortunately the masses listen with their eyes too much. And what you had back then is everything that was a voice or a musical note came through, and when the voices rolled with a note or rolled with some rhythm, you couldn't help but to have it seep inside you. But today, people listen with their eyes too much. So therefore, it's like, you know, the motto I have right now is believe half of what you hear, because people don't listen anyway, and none of what you see. Or it used to be the other way around, right? But now it's like believe nothing that you see. And unfortunately, that's where they got people duped. So the voices had to have something. You had to have something with a voice back then. If you didn't have nothing with a voice back then, you did something else. Maybe you was visual. Maybe you had to do things in real life. But the voices was what grabbed your attention. And radio was everything. And TV was something that we was able to get, on very rarely and barely. Even if we have 5 channels, you fix it with an antenna, you know. So the voices was everything, and you had to be able to lock into also what we had at that time, imagination. That has also been taken, now bought, repackaged, and sold. Imagination no longer is something that people feel that they possess to share. So these are different times.
The question to the poets, you know, and Chuck talked about, you know, radio play. Did you ever hear your records on the radio? Because at one point, you know, you were charted on Billboard.
Yeah,
it may have been true. Yeah, you go ahead, Umar. You answer that.
Yeah, well, when the album came out, we got some play here and there, special pages, people who know who we were. We got some play every once in a while, but not really. But basically, that album was sold by word of mouth. That album was sold by word of mouth. I mean, nobody had ever heard a bunch of young poets speak of things that were selling albums, especially niggas scared of revolution and when the revolution comes. So basically, the album was sold by word of mouth through the black community, well, even throughout the white community. So we appreciated that. You know, we just tried to keep up the thing going, to keep the whole idea of the Last Poets going. Because it was, when the album came out, it was just me, Jalal and Elijah. You know, some of the other brothers that went and did some things of their own. So we pushed it out there, and we hope that it worked. And it worked, man. It worked for us. It worked for us good. The people just fell in love with it. Everybody fell in love with the album, man.
You know, I remember the impact that it had on me, because I was like Umar said, it was just he and Jalal and Elijah, because I'd gone down south to really test my revolutionary skill.
Tell the fucking truth. Tell the truth.
I ended up going to jail.
All right.
And brothers were coming into prison quoting the Last Poets, and it was killing me because they were quoting me, and I couldn't tell anybody that I was the guy that they were quoting. So when Umar says this album sold by word of mouth, he's absolutely right. There was no Twitter, there was no Facebook, none of that stuff existed. And one person I do know for a fact that Frankie Crocker did play once or twice Jalal's piece on the subway.
God bless him. God bless. Because what nobody said about Frankie Crocker, he looked out for the Last Poets.
Yeah, he loved the Last Poets.
He did. He loved the Last Poets. He did. I don't care what nobody said about Frankie.
Remembers his show because he used to play Moody's Mood for Love at
King Pleasure. King Pleasure.
It was King Pleasure?
Yeah.
King Pleasure. It was a song. It's a song. Yeah, There I Go, There I, and it was composed by James Moody, the great tenor saxophonist, the late great tenor saxophonist.
Who played?
And I worked with Frankie for a long time, so he was always way ahead, always. BLS started to die when they got rid of him.
And Chuck, you know, like, you know, we talk about BLS, Frankie Crocker, that 4:30 or 4 o'clock, whenever he came, when everything stopped in the city, you know, for all the people who don't know who we're talking about.
Well, I think one thing is that I'm asking the question. I would think that a lot of the jocks and the DJs at that time also bit a little bit of the style and thunder off the Last Poets and mixed it into their vernacular. Am I right or am I guessing?
No, you're right. WLIB was wonderful to us. All the people at WLIB, they looked out for us, man. They played our stuff on there, man. You know, you know, I mean, they were there for us when we needed.
I feel like I might have heard Gary Bird.
Gary Bird was always on it. Gary Bird was always on it. There was Gary Bird. There was Jerry Bledsoe. There were a lot of people. Listen, there were people like Ellis Hazlett who loved the Last Poets. There were people who believed in what we were saying, but could not come out all the way in their particular modality, in their media platforms, because they knew it would be over for them. But they supported us in so many ways. Ellis Hazlett did. Frankie Crocker did. I can't see your face anymore. I don't know what happened. Several people did that. And it really helped us get along. It really helped us. Of course, we had cultural exchanges. We had cultural centers at that time that were based on Black nationalism. Number one was the East Wing. There was another place in Brooklyn called the East. Then there
and that was the spot in Brooklyn. Trust me, they had
that was the spot.
Yes, it was. Because
And then there was Amiri Baraka. Then there was Amiri Baraka's place, the Spirit House Movement and Shakers. They had a place on Belmont Avenue. So these were the places that we would kind of generate between. Plus, we had a lot of public schools, a lot of public teachers, public education teachers who used to have us come over. Believe it or not, the Last Poets lived, at least when I was with them, lived on poetry. I paid my rent. I took care of business on poetry, nothing else.
You mentioned that the DJs were playing it, but maybe the corporations didn't want to hear this music. They were scared of it.
Well, but of course they would be. I mean, we were directly confronting white skin privileges. We were directly confronting capitalism. We were directly confronting the injustice that was being meted out to Blacks and Puerto Ricans. It should be noted, and I think with tremendous respect, that the Last Poets allowed this Puerto Rican to join them. It had never been done before. There were no Black Latino groups at that time.
Yes.
And so these were the first to come out. And I remember not having one person, not one, say you shouldn't speak Spanish, because I did a poem called Rifle Prayer, totally in Spanish. It was an incredible, incredible time to be alive. And
but the corporations really respected when they found out that Umar bin Hassan had kicked in Clive Davis's door to get their money from the first album.
Well, they might have understood what they might have understood where you were coming from on that. But altogether, between the poetry, between the multiculturalism that we espoused, between the militancy of the poetry and the sagaciousness, there was a lot of wisdom there. Between Kane, Abiodun, David Nelson, Jalil, Umar bin Hassan, Elijah, Babatunde. It's an incredible history if you think about it. It spans the history of the modern Black man in America.
And it's really, the truth is that I always see the Last Poets as a reflection of our whole situation in America, because the idea was to get men from different walks of life to come together and work as a unit. And poets, generally speaking, are very individual. They don't work as units. But to do that was to really provide an example for the rest of Black America to see how much we needed to have unity. And we knew that with a unified front, we could get whatever we needed. But that was always in the balance. We always were struggling to unify without the COINTELPRO and without all the other interferences. So that was still a struggle, and it is still a struggle now, because if we did have the unity that we should have, we wouldn't have any problems. We wouldn't have any issues with anything from healthcare to education and the injustices of police. None of that would be a reality, but our lack of unity has caused us to leave holes and gaps in our culture to cause the rabid dogs to come in and bite us.
Yes, sir. And Chuck, so you get all of this energy that we've been listening to just now comes into you as a young guy, and eventually you then go on a radio show, and then somebody says, we want you to make a record. And so are you in a situation now where you have to deal with, the corporations, how does that transcend all of this information, that you're getting from the streets?
Well, eventually, I mean, just like Abiodun said, what we wanted to do is continue the tradition that you're going to get offers by all these people that rap begins to take form. But I wasn't getting involved unless I bought my whole kit and caboodle, the whole posse. That's why the first album's called Yo Bum Rush the Show. We bum rushed the show. We brought in at least 15 people from different vantage points. We knew that coming from Long Island, we wasn't going to make it as individuals. I think the first 10 years of hip hop into the corporations, they knew that they had a problem because they had to deal with groups coming out of that, out of that idiom. So out of that idiom, you came in as a total group of people. Eventually, the powers that be in culture and business and recording wanted to reduce it down to one person anyway. I got offered as a one-person situation for a long time. I rejected that. I said, we're going to come in and have people that you really won't be able to define, like a Professor Griff or Flavor Flav. You didn't have a definition for them. You didn't really hear their voices a lot, but you heard it enough where around me, you heard a lot of different elements. So that's what it was. They succeeded in knocking out groups by the middle of 1997, 1998. And if you look around hip hop and rap music today, it might be what they might say it is. But one thing you know is 98% individuals. And
Yes.
individuals, you can do anything to them. And although the individuals have found a way, like nature, to collab and come together in a bunch of different instances. So that's a natural form of people collaborating that they tried to stop with laws, contracts, companies. But individuals, individuality is the thing that eventually put a bad shadow on hip hop and rap from being as powerful as it was. Nothing tops a group. You look on basketball, nothing stops a team. Nothing stops a community. Individuals could be neutralized.
I should add in that we have to remember the context, the cultural context of this. And the cultural context is as follows. We had, coming up to the East Wind, Stokely Carmichael. We had the Panthers. We had Rap Brown, Jamil El Amin. We had the Black nationalists, cultural nationalists. We had Muslims coming. The variety of opinions that we had at that time influenced us. We were being affected by everything we saw and heard. It was impossible not to be affected by that. Revolutionary consciousness was in the air. Abiel Doon went down south to rob a KKK station, a KKK gas station. I had already come out from jail for doing something that was not revolutionary. It was street and it was crime. But we both came with Abiel Doon later, me earlier, came with the sense of the injustice of a prison system. We had all of that going on around us. Queen Mother Moore, Farrakhan, we had all the Garveyites from Harlem. We were affected by each of those trends, and you hear it in the poetry.
Right.
In fact, from there, I started the Young Lords. Young Lords were not influenced by Puerto Rico. We were influenced by Black folk. And I want to say that clearly. It was Rap Brown, Galen Kane, who told me I had to start something in the Puerto Rican community. That's how the Young Lords started.
Well, there was an obvious movement, and that's the one thing that I must say that I feel bad about with hip hop, because hip hop tried to create a movement, and it was on the, I'd say it was kind of leading on the border of a movement, but it wasn't a movement. A movement was what kind of shapes your values, and it helps you actually forge a way to some success for your people in the community. I would say that many of the hip hop artists have made success in terms of business, and they've made some good choices, I think, maybe with the money aspect, but the community has suffered still. We haven't really gotten together, the people, and I say in the absence of a movement, it appears that the circus comes to town, and we don't really, and we don't really take into consideration how serious our lives are and how abused they're being treated, because we don't have that backup of each other. And that was the idea of the Last Poets, was that we would turn a light on in our minds and recognize that we have to see each other as important enough to work together and try to be a salvation for ourselves and each other.
Brothers, I'm gonna, Brother Chuck was here for a quickie, and I know that
I just like to say one.
Yes.
I like to say one thing. It's like the co-sign what Brother Abiel Doon was saying is that you can't talk about the Last Poets in past tense. 98%, and I don't even know the 2%, 98% of everything that they've said and recorded is applicable right now and 5 to 10 years from now, even more so.
Right.
But absolutely. If you don't have intermediaries that honestly process this thing, and process is a good word when it's positive and it's done for the majority of the people that need it. That intermediaries that tell you that they could teach an educational system just off a couple albums without going into the rigmarole and wasting a lot of people's time. You play these records and you talk about these records and you'll come up with answers for 2023. But if people are kind of lost on the fact, and this is the thing what makes it different. The thing that makes it different is that you have new generations that wasn't here before.
Right.
You got the systems that still are here with the same uckery that still goes on in new faces, but the same old ways and the same end results. So to take those words, you know, words make wars and they stop them, man. To take the words of the last poets, we got to get out of the past tense. I mean, they were future words for 50 years ahead, and maybe so. But if nothing in the middle recognizes that, then we back before square one.
I tried to get Chuck. I know he had another meeting that he had to deal with, but Chuck, in just moving on to our next segment, this is all about bridging the gap. You know, what can you say to the poets in closing?
Man, I love y'all. Y'all know that.
Listen, it's back at you, baby.
And my thing is as service, to never ever let these words be forgotten and put them in perpetuity. And then the words spur the action, you know, and everybody should be at y'all's service. And that's simple as that. Y'all don't owe anything. We owe everything. And how do we make that normal everyday motion? That's something to fight for, especially.
Well, we need you back at the Apollo, Chuck. We need you back in the Apollo from one of those meetings. That was a bomb, man. That was the bomb right there.
And we had a great time last time, and it should be done on some kind of
on a regular basis. Absolutely.
Yeah, especially now. You know, my thing is that, you know, you all already have seen it just in the vernaculars of hip hop and rap music when they tell somebody to tone your voice down.
Yeah.
Or somebody just say, yo, you know, it's like, damn, man. It's like, why it got to be like that? It's like, because these are the things that always get, you know, white supremacy on its heels. And they should be on its heels when they call themselves supreme. Simple as that. But I think we got Rakim. I think we got Chubb Rock coming up on the show, and they can speak very clearly and pay homage. And I'm always at y'all's service. Y'all know that. Salute.
Thank you, Chubb.
Salute, brother.
Thank you, Chubb. Good to see you, baby.
Y'all ain't got to thank me for nothing, man.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, you are watching 50th anniversary of The Last Poets. It's Bridging the Gap. We'll be right back.
Selfish desires are burning like fires among those who hard to go as they continue to keep the people asleep and the truth from being told. Racism and...
My name is Imhotep Gary Bird, the Radio Griot. I'm the host of the Global Black Experience, the longest running black radio broadcast in the history of New York City, running some 50 years. And that 50 years has put me in the unique position of seeing the last poets at the inception of their journey and odyssey across a journey which has very definitely shown us the power of the word. I was blessed, as were many in the community here in New York, across the country and around the planet, to experience what they were able to do in terms of combining culture, consciousness, and truth. And for me, it was more in this case than being a DJ, which I was at the time on WWRL radio, broadcasting and having a chance to do what I was doing on the GBE, the Gary Bird Experience all-night show. For me, it inspired me to want to become a recording artist and even a songwriter myself, which I was able to do. Every Brother and a Brother, Soul Traveling, the album presenting the Gary Bird Experience, the things that I wrote with Stevie Wonder over the years for Songs in the Key of Life, Village Ghettoland, Black Man, and others, and on to The Crown, were really all inspired by that moment that I had the opportunity of seeing the power of the spoken word, and that power exemplified by what the last poets were able to bring to bear in terms of their delivery, their style, and what I later referred to as their rap, rhythmically accentuated poetry. It inspired me, and ultimately I'm here today not only to say how much I appreciate what they did, certainly for our culture and for our community, but what they did for me, because they pushed me forward to become a recording artist and a songwriter in my own right. And I'm here to say how much I cherish, and certainly how much I believe there is still more last poets to come, especially with everything that's going on in the 2020s. So brothers, I salute you. I celebrate this 50-year celebration of the album, and at the same time I say to you, keep on keeping on.
So thank you. Definitely we'd like to thank everyone involved in this production. Thank you for having us. We accept this for our father, Raymond Nalaja Hurry, the Kunga Slap behind hip-hop for the Last Poets. And big up to the Last Poets for keeping this involved. I'll just play a little bit. Thanks, y'all. Have a good one. Peace.
Have a good one.
Happy 50th anniversary to the Poets. And thank you, Dad. Raymond Nalaja Hurry.
Thank you.
Understand what black is. It is a source from which all things come, a security blanket for the stars. Understand what black is. It is not a color. It is the basis of all colors. It is not a complexion. It is the reflection of all complexions called human. Understand what black is. And from this blackness, passion flows like a river. Feelings tell the truth. Song and dance and making you laugh are family members. Understand what black is. The breath you breathe, the sweat on your brow, the tears and the cheers, balancing the world on your head. Faith is a glue that holds it all together. Understand what black is.
To the Last Poets. It's your man, Jay Ivy, and I want to say happy anniversary. Happy 50th anniversary. For 50 years, you've been knocking down doors, opening up doors for poets and MCs and storytellers to blaze through. Because of you, we got the blueprint for what it means to use your voice, to use your will, to use your heart, your spirit, to touch people, to inspire people, motivate people. Man, I wear this badge proudly. And it's because of you that I'm able to wear this badge. It's because of you that moments like these were able to exist. We all here for a reason on a particular path. You don't need a curriculum to know that you're a part of the math. Cats think I'm delirious, but I'm so damn serious. That's why I expose my soul to the globe, the world. I'm trying to make it better for these little boys and girls. I'm not just another individual. My spirit is a part of this. That's why I get spiritual. But I get my hymns from him, so it's not me, it's he that's lyrical. I'm not a miracle. I'm a heaven-sent instrument. My rhythmic regimen navigates melodic notes to your soul and your mental. That's why I'm instrumental. Vibrations is what I'm into. Yeah, I need my loot by rent day, but that ain't what gives me the heart of Kunta Kinte. I'm trying to give us free like Sinke. I can't stop. That's why I'm hot. Determination, dedication, motivation. I'm talking to you and my many inspirations when I say I can't let you or self down. If I were on the highest cliff, on the highest rift, and you slipped off the side and clutched onto your life in my grip, I would never, ever let you down. And when these words are found, let it be known that that God's penmanship has been signed with a language called love. That's why my breath is felt by the deaf, and why my words are heard and confined to the ears of the blind. I too dream in color and in rhyme, so I guess I'm one of a kind in a full house. Cause whenever I open my heart, my soul, or my mouth, a touch of God rains out. To the legendary last poets, the godfathers of hip hop, we thank you, we love you, we celebrate you every single day. J. Ivy, much love.
Some of us will probably catch it on TV with chicken hanging from our...
Congratulations with the anniversary, the 50th anniversary of the first album of The Last Poets. Thank you for your legacy. Thank you for letting me write your story. To think that when the first album came out, Abiyadoon was in prison for robbing the Ku Klux Klan. He thought he didn't miss his voice. Listen. One afternoon I was walking past the washrooms when I heard an inmate singing a familiar tune. It took a few seconds before it hit me what it was. And in those few seconds I was nailed to the ground, like my body caught on quicker than my mind did. The guy walked off, but his sing-song murmur echoed throughout the bare cement washroom. When the revolution comes, when the revolution comes. He was singing my poem. When the revolution comes, some of us will catch it on TV. I hadn't given those recordings in Alan Douglas's studio any more thought. It had been more than a year earlier. I couldn't get to myself fast enough. Thank you for continuing to be the last poets. And I love you, guys.
Wear afros when the revolution comes. When the revolution comes. When the revolution comes. When the revolution comes. But until then, you know and I know niggas will party and bullshit and party and bullshit and party.
Good God, giving thanks with an attitude of gratitude. What else am I to do? I'm alive, still writing. Myself, I'm not fighting. Cause I got peace. The war within, it had to cease. It had to cease. It had to. Because of the last poets. The last poets helped to set me free. I'm Tony Blackman. I'm a poet. When I was a kid, I grew up listening to the records in the living room. I remember the album covers. There was the Emotions, Gil Scott, the Dramatics, I Wanna Go Outside. Yeah. And the Last Poets. The Last Poets. I remember the Last Poets because I would take that one into my bedroom and play it on my little orange record player over and over and over again. And then when I got to DC, I went to Howard University. I got to meet them. You know I geeked out, right? And then I went on to share stages with them, many stages. I later moved to New York City from DC, my second home. But then New York became my home really quickly because of Dune's home, the Sunday Salons, where he opened his door to poets from all around the world, and I received an immediate embrace. And it made a difference in my life like nobody's business. It gave me grounding, it gave me focus, reminded me of my purpose and my intention. Where would we be without the last poets? Who would we be without the last poets?
Cannot see. I am just another victim of a cruel
Don't you tell me that I'm a dreamer. Oh no, when it's you that cannot see. I am just another victim of a cruel American reality. See, during your dark ages, when your people were blind, I built universities to enlighten your kind. When your homeland was weak and your people were poor, it was I who brought you to the American shore. While you did not even know how to survive, I taught you how to make medicine so that you could stay alive. How earnest you seemed, how well you did learn, and how vile the reward I received in return. The time is on my side, and one day it will arrive. The time is on our side, and I know you must know that one day will arrive, and you will reap what you sow. No, you must know, you will reap what you sow. No, you must know, you will reap what you sow. Salute to the last poets. My name is Maimuna Youssef, also known as Moon Fresh. I had the pleasure of meeting the last poets that came to my high school to perform. I got to perform with them. I grew up listening to them. My father was a big fan of the last poets. And I just want to salute you on your anniversary for the longevity, for the impact you've had, the pioneers of modern day hip hop. So we thank you for everything that you've done to push the culture forward. And yeah, the path that you paved, you know, that opened the road for all of us. Don't you tell me that I'm a dreamer. Oh no, just another victim of this pain. Don't you tell me, oh no, oh, you can't see that I'm just another victim of a victim of a cruel reality. Salute, happy anniversary. 50 years strong. We love you.
I mean, for me, the last poets are more like the first poets, in that they were the first poets, the first artists that I saw speaking truth to power in the way that they did. They were fearless in their, social commentary. How politically charged, how just real deal what they were saying resonated with, black and brown people all over the world, was unprecedented. I feel like they provided, a voice for the voiceless and, a face for the unseen in that way. So much love for the powerful impact of the last poets. Hugely influential on what it is that I've done over my career and everything that I sort of continue to do. So.
Selfish desires are burning like fire.
Back to the 50th anniversary of the last poets. It's called Bridging the Gap, and we have some special guests that have joined us. Chubb Rock is here, my Brooklyn brethren, and he's a master of words. And tell me what you feel when you hear the last poets, Chubb.
It's interesting because my mom came to this country and got married on May 19th, 1968.
What?
Where's she from?
Jamaica.
All right.
Wow, that's our anniversary.
That's the anniversary. And I was born on the 28th, 1968. Wow. And she was homeless when she came to this country. She slept in Prospect Park.
Wow.
And she would go to these various places and hear music and hear the last poets. And I remember when I might have been maybe 6 or 7, she played one of the albums, and I was like, who are these people? And she was like, this is the closest thing to reggae you're going to find in this country. Because reggae talks about the oppressions and things of that nature of the Caribbean and, you know, the structure of unity and everything. And then when she came to this country, the only thing she heard like that was the Last Poets and maybe a few other things of that nature. Because, you know, you guys had that jazz poetry of however you wanted to call it. And it was just, yeah, so that's how I grew up. I grew up with that kind of stuff. And coming into hip hop, that was the big influence for me because I came in doing poetry first.
Yes.
You know, hiding in the room, kind of expressing myself on that side. And then, because, you know, when we was growing up in Brooklyn, I don't know if this happened to Ralph, but I know I would go play football or whatever as a kid. And when I would walk home, me and my friends, we would get stopped by the cops and they would say, hey, do you guys want to make $10? And we were like, $10? What do we got to do? Oh, just come down to the police precinct because you know, we want you to be in a lineup. We know you didn't do nothing wrong, but we just
oh my God.
And you get paid for people to be in the lineup. And I remember as a kid, and then when you say no, they say, oh, what, did you do something?
What are you, a troublemaker?
Yeah, and then you got to go through all of this. So
go up against the wall, you.
Yeah, man. And then, you know,
and then you get picked.
Yeah. And then I go to my
That
father.
sounds like a setup.
Yeah, my father would tell me.
It was a setup.
Be careful about this. And then I would listen to the Last Poets. In fact, it's funny because my mom had it on 8-track. And then obviously the albums and things of that nature. So growing up in Brooklyn and hip hop and having that kind of mixture of the Last Poets, me wanting to be in hip hop, Caribbean reggae music on this side, it was beautiful. When I got the email to be involved with this, I was blown away. I was like, wow. You know, because we need this right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like right now. You guys talked about an incident in New York. I'll tell you an incident that happened here in Georgia. I'm from Brooklyn, but I live in Georgia now, of a young black man, 25 years old. He was jogging through a neighborhood.
And got shot and killed by a father and his son.
Father and his son did nothing wrong, execution style, and they didn't even go to the precinct. They didn't even take them to the precinct.
Nope.
They went straight back home. And then another incident happened, young man getting killed in Sanford, Florida, the same city that Trayvon Martin got killed.
Yep.
That just happened. So even during the pandemic, racism is out there alive and not wearing a mask.
This is a perfect time for introspection. I mean,
yes,
there are no distractions. There are a lot of things that we would be normally doing. And this is a time, like what you said, you're meditating down in Puerto Rico and you're talking to God. We should all be on that page. This, and like Umar said, we got a lot of self-hatred still amongst us. The nigger still runs rampant through our lives. We got to get rid of that. There's homework that we all need to do. And this is a perfect time to do it.
For our heroes working in the front line.
Thank you, Baba.
Coño!
Yeah.
Vaya!
Thank you, Baba.
I like to say one more thing about our ancestors. You know, we have come from a group of ancestors who are the best that ever come into life, into this world. They have taken us through slavery. They have taken us through the things in this America. So when my mother died, I'm again to say, well, our ancestors, they're some beautiful people. We got to start giving more presence and understanding them, and we got to start telling our young people who our ancestors were, so they can begin to understand who we are as their ancestors. So, because the ancestors' line is very important, you know.
Absolutely.
You know, while we still have Chubb here, Chubb, thank you so much for being here. Abiodun, can you do something that we want to hear, that the fans want to hear right now? Can you do some poetry for us right now?
For the millions. For the millions. For the millions of Africans chained to the slave ships, for the millions of scars on their backs and faces by the bullwhip, for the millions who jumped overboard, for the blood that poured on the shores of North America, South America, Central America, and Europe. And each ripple in the ocean is a grave for an African who refused to be a slave. For the millions, for the millions who were shot, hung, beat to death, tarred and feathered, boiled in oil, whiplash, backlash, focus sacks thrown in the river. For the millions who were castrated, miseducated, segregated, integrated, legislated, either constipated. For the millions who were lied to, denied to, ran by eye to, misguided to, not applied to. So we decided to get ourselves together and change the weather, not just for now, but forever. We decided to love each other, be real sisters and brothers, and take this beautiful look at ourselves and recognize the beauty of ourselves with this beautiful black skin, this coarse hair. For the millions, for the millions who lived in boycotted, bigoted, cursed that, yo, I like that.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. I know.
I have if I'd like to interrupt you because I only have a few minutes left on this phone here.
Yes.
And I don't know how to get back in. May I read this Tito Puente poem very quickly?
Please.
Baba, this is like a slow wawanko.
I got you.
Baba, come down on your volume a little bit, Baba.
I'm barely touching my drums.
Okay, all right.
you haven't seen Baba.
So Felipe, go as loud as you can.
Okay. I love him so much it hurts. His wavy hair, his light-skinned pockmarked face, his burly chest, his arms, his fingers. If you knew Tito Puente, if you knew his smell, his breath, his smile, his eyes, you'd lie in bed for days and cry. 'Cause who makes the king happy? After the mambos, after the showboating, after the showstoppers, after the last trumpet, the last lick of the conga, who whispers in the king's ear that as a man, as a spirit, as my father, he is the loveliest human being to come out of 110th Street? When we landed here in Brooklyn on boats that were our slave ships, it was Tito that met us at the dock. And when we suffered at the hands of cops and teachers and factory owners and just plain nasty Americans, it was Tito who hugged us at the bandstand, who dried our tears, who made us dance and forget for just one day that we were second-class jibaros. When everyone else left El Barrio and developed cultural amnesia because now they had money and a house and a tree in the backyard and some neighbors who didn't call them spics, Tito stayed. Hugging dope fiends and alcoholics, welfare mothers and kids in jail, corny candidates and judges, dope dealers and number runners, Pentecostals and Catholics. Tito stayed and visited projects and bars, after hours in churches, hot spots in hospitals. Who makes the king happy? Where does he go for peace? Sometimes in the midst of the fanfare and phoniness, I see him looking at the faces, the new ones, and my heart breaks. There is sometimes such sadness. He has seen so much, and I wonder who can tell his story? Who can feel his life? Machito, Daniel Santos and Cortijo, Vicentico, Santito, Tito Rodriguez, Hector Lavoe, Chombo Silva, Barry Rogers, Charlie Palmieri, Luis Ramirez, and Jimmy Frisura. He has been to all of their funerals. He cried his tears alone. And all we can do is scream in drunken stupor and pound him on the back after a good set. The world loves his music, but do you love him? When you kiss him, do you kiss your father or a musician? Do you bow like you would the Pope and gently place your lips on the hands that have kept more Puerto Ricans from suicide and murder than the church? Do you feel the king, the man, or do you simply dance to his mambo beat? Next time you hear his song, next time you hear his name, next time you see him or his spirit walking down the street in the form of a 10-year-old or a priest or a gangster, softly, gently slide up to him or her and whisper thank you for being alive, as if you may never see them again. And with tears in your eyes, let them know that without them, there is no you. So whisper, I love you, and dance away. Thank you very much, y'all. I got to go.
Yeah. Thank you, Felipe.
Hold on, Felipe. How much time you got on your phone, Felipe?
4%.
Okay. Umar, come on. I want everybody here. Umar, you gotta do something with us now.
Y'all just, you just got to get me involved, don't you?
4%.
Madness, brother.
Well, we'd like to get you involved.
No, I'm
If you
gonna
don't pull you in.
do a little bit of personal things, Bob. Personal thing.
Okay.
Time in becomes time out. Group anxiety has become personal doubt. Expressing ourselves in dots and dances, pure cocaine and false eyelashes. Living inside words that seem to lie. Living inside excuses that pass us by. Living inside loneliness becomes a high. Living gets mixed up with wanting to die. A daily question of going insane. But we're missing one another, trying to ease the strain. Dreaming of tomorrow, we'd like to know. Repressing our tracks, but wanting to grow. The heart and soul are not involved. Our shadow becomes reality while problems are solved. Pure rain is prefabricated and preconditioned. We're baptized, advertised, and posthumously mentioned. Wings and wounds for the glory of applause. Living off the mercy of unwritten law. Still got papers making people die. While the mind like a dunking knife. Turned into robots through the power of suggestion. We seek an answer and become the question.
Yes. Awesome. Chubrock, any last words for the poets? And you were talking earlier. I know you lost your mom as well, Chub.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yes.
Hard loss, man. Hard loss. The issue that we have, we talked about some things. Professor Umar said, hey, we got to make ourselves better. With this pandemic, I didn't trust a lot of things when it came to food. So all of a sudden, I knew I was diabetic, and I said, let me try to change some things. So I just went on straight vegetables, and that's it. I just left meat alone. I lost 45 pounds.
Get out of here.
I don't got to do the blood pressure medicine no more. My A1C
Right on.
got to 6.1.
Bless you. Bless you, baby boy. Bless you.
So, there's these positives to it. And when you deal with young people, I think the only way we get to young people is, one, we can't judge them, right? No judge. We got to be consistent with them because it got to be consistent.
Right.
There's nothing better than consistency. And then we got to get to the point where they trust us and that we as men are not scared of them. There's so many men scared of young boys.
Oh, man.
And you can't have a society where men are scared of children. We're here to protect children. We're here to protect children.
Say that again, man. Say that again about men. Say that again, brother, because that's important, what you just said about children. Go say that again, please.
Yeah, as men, we got to show young people, hey, wait a second, we're not scared of you. We're here to protect you, but we're not scared of you. You can't have a society where men are scared of children.
Thank you.
So you have this one thing that we got to do and change and revamp and just change a lot of things. And also, there's a need now for even advertisers and everybody else not to incorporate men, especially black men. That's why radio stations, that you ask them, what's your target demographic? Oh, 25, 54 black women. Television, 25, 54 black women, because they believe they are the people that buy the most products.
They have the disposable income, yes.
Right. So it's like men are not even counted in that situation. But hey,
no, they're not.
If somebody kicks down your door to come grab you, it will be me or any one of these men that will protect you and protect your family. As long as we are there to say, we are the protector. We're not here to be scared of boys and cross the street when you see two boys walking towards you. That's craziness.
Thank you very much, brother.
So,
it's the Bill Todd family, man. I agree with you 100%. I got to get out of here, but I agree with you 100%, brother Chubb. What we're going to have to, three things we're going to have to do. A, we're going to have to begin to educate our children ourselves. The schools are wonderful, but they're not teaching the history that needs to be taught. Jewish Americans have yeshivas. Japanese Americans have their little schools where you go to and you learn Japanese and what your ancestors did. We don't have anything. We don't have after schools that teach you who you are. The DNA of geniuses is in us. It's in us. There's no way that you see those pyramids in Giza and think that you're not part of that. That's crazy.
It's because of the dinner table. We got rid of the dinner table. See,
yes,
everybody's eating in their room and not at the dinner table.
That's true.
You see, when you
And
come
playing
to
their
the
video games.
right? When you come to the dinner table, then you can say to your son, "Yo, what happened with you today?"
Right.
If you're there.
And
if
then
you're
he can,
there.
right, and then he can tell you, this happened, that happened, this happened, that happened. And here's the thing: we got to learn also, even with our women, to be amicable if the relationship fails.
Yes.
The relationship can fail, but our respect for each other should always should not
yeah,
fail.
yeah. In other words, the relationship can fail, but the connection must not.
Period. And that's what we
I agree with that
That's why the
100%.
last poets and more of these, hopefully more poetry, more albums, more us getting together as men so we can say, listen, because there's a power in I'm sorry.
Yes, there is.
So when we make a mistake, we can say, hey, we made a mistake, we're sorry. How do we get past this? Because here's the thing. The war is against us all.
That's right. Right.
There's no way to win just sending women to battle. There's no way to win just sending men to battle. We got to be together.
That's right.
And that's what it is. And Ralph had mentioned about the young energy and the hip hop, the way they're doing their hip hop now, where it's not as many words, but it's this energy. And it's because the energy is there. The energy is there. The brilliance is there. There's some ingredients missing.
We just have to tap it. We just have to tap it,
and also
we have to mold it
without judgment. Without judgment.
And with forgiveness for the fuck ups,
Exactly.
ours and theirs. It's very important. I gotta split, y'all. Take care of yourself, Chubbs. One wonderful meeting. Dune, I'll see you later.
All right, baby. Good to see you.
Umar, you know how much I love you.
And congratulations, granddaddy.
Thank you. And Baba Tunde, thank you for your rhythms, man. There's a very beautiful connection between all of us. I love it. You are my family. I'm telling you that seriously. You are my family. And it's this kind of family that we have to fight for so that we don't get divided between Latinos and Black folks. Because that's what they're trying now. It's not going to happen.
And they're working hard at it, Felipe. They're working hard at it too, Felipe. I say they're working hard at it.
Yeah, they're working hard at it. Of course they are. We still have
divide to conquer the divided. That's what Dune said.
Yeah,
conquer the
that's
divided.
right. And all of us have problems. We got Uncle Tom's on one side and we got coconuts on the other. You know, we got a bunch of people who are still thinking that they're Spanish. And I'm telling you, I've told them Europe is Europe, and you better understand who you are and start learning about the Tainos. Take care of yourselves. God bless you.
All right.
God bless you,
Ladies and gentlemen, don't go nowhere. We'll be back with more of the 50th anniversary of The Last Poets, Bridging the Gap.
All right.
Hi, I'm Jamaline Takuma. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Grew up in North Philadelphia where I first heard The Last Poets, and they have been extremely inspirational to me throughout all of my life, as well as others, I'm sure. Congratulations to you guys for doing such exceptional work over these many years, inspiring all of the young hip-hoppers who have been creating music, creating beats, and creating all of the things that have been moving our culture forward. I would like to also say that this is very special for me because I have been involved with the production of the Last Poets Transcending Toxic Times, one of their most recent recordings. And for me, hearing their first record is an exceptional thing for me to be able to experience and to enjoy. So congratulations to you guys. Long live Last Poets. Long live the Last Poets.
Happy 50 years, Last Poets. From bebop, bam to hip hop, word sorcerers all, word warriors all, in the African tradition where all words have a certain kind of magic, power. So our hip hop rappers, warriors from the Bronx, Long Island, New York City, Philly, Atlanta, Miami, South Africa, Paris, Cuba, have heard the transformative power of their words, language. And I remember Brother Otis Redding when he said, I'll be the moon when the sun goes down, just to let you know that I'm still around. That's how strong my love is. Ooh, 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 ooh. That's how strong my love is. Ooh, 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 ooh. So we see Black language is the commonality that immediately links the BAM movement poets and rap artists and all the artists to come. The last poets, these brothers, Abiodun, Hassan, and others knew, as we know, that culture and politics were not to be separated. They were one, that we are not responsible for our oppression, but you know, and I know, we must be responsible for fighting for our liberation. Yeah, 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 yeah. And the last poets, the last poets helped us lovingly and brilliantly to be involved in our liberation by their words, sounds, life, yeah, 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 yeah. How they would bend their words so we could look across the ocean and see ourselves anew coming back. How they did things with language that brought new thoughts, new relationships. How they created new language on top of their music so we could see ourselves clearer. Their words, language, always dangerous in their hands and their mouths because they came towards us with love and the history and herstory of our Black language, our Black existence. Thank you, my dear brothers. Hey, thank you for the conversation called life, 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 life. I love y'all. Your call and response with life. Your creation of new words, y'all. A moving current of a deep blue spirit. A battleground of young gladiators, male and female. Thank you for your word sculpture. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You live forever in my dreams. Thank you, last poets forever.
Still asleep when I had this dream. You woke us up. You woke us up 50 years ago. Can I tell my dream? I have longed to stay awake. Beautiful world I'm trying to find. See, I've been in search of myself. Oh, it's just too hard for me to find by myself. Said it's just too hard for me to find. See, I am in the search of something new. Search inside me, searching inside you. Hey, wait, look. What if there was no niggas, only master teacher? I say, whoa. Hey, what if there was no niggas, only master teacher? I say, whoa. Hey, what if there was no niggas, only master teacher? I say, whoa. What if there was no niggas, only master teacher? I say, whoa. Even when the preacher tell you some lies and cheating on your mama, come on. inside. Hey, everybody. I stay woke. Everybody. I stay woke. Sing everybody. I stay woke. Everybody. I stay woke. Beautiful world, trying to find. Beautiful world, trying to find. Beautiful world, trying to find. Let's take it down. Let's take it down.
Of revolution. Niggas are very untogether people. Niggas talk about getting high and riding around in L's. Niggas should get high and ride to hell. Niggas talk about pimping that, pimping what, pimping yours, pimping mine. Just to be pimping is a hell of a line. Niggas are very untogether people. Niggas talk about your mind, talk about my mind stronger than yours. I got this bitch's mind uptight. Niggas don't know a damn thing about the mind, but they be right. Niggas are scared of revolution. Niggas fuck. Niggas fuck. Niggas love the word fuck. They think there's no fucking you. They fuck you around. The first thing they say when they're mad is fuck it. You play a little too much with them. They say fuck you. When it's time to GTB, niggas are so damn fucking trying to be nice. I stay woke. 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 I stay woke.
Niggas.
Welcome back to 50th anniversary of The Last Poets, and it's all about bridging the gap. And our special guest right now, Michael Holman, Chubb Rock, and one of my favorites, Rakim, is in the building with The Last Poets. And you know, Rakim, you know, we talk about Black nationalism and, you know, and bridging the gap between education and entertainment. You know, how did you find that balance? What did you get from The Last Poets that allowed you to do that as well?
I mean, I was influenced by the Black Poets big time, man, since I was, you know, a little kid. I remember hearing niggas is scared of the revolution. You know, this, you know, didn't even know who it was. And then when I got about 11 years old, I started realizing what was going on and started researching the Last Poets and fell in love with the way they came across and the way they informed us. And I think the swagger and the cockiness, you know what I mean, and the confidence, I kind of adapted that, man, and used that myself, man. And you know, I just love the way, you know, the way they captured my attention is the way I wanted to capture other people's attention and inform them and tell them something, you know, that they may have not have known, you know what I mean? So I owe, you know, so much of that to them, man, you know. And one of the biggest things that just blew my mind is when I heard E pluribus unum means one out of many. I mean, I you know what I mean? I remember just reading everything that I could to understand exactly what that was, man. And, you know, it brought me here, man. So I appreciate it big time.
You know, in knowing you, and you've told me this before, that, you know, you do so much research because people fact check you, so you have to make sure you fact check yourself.
Yes, sir.
And so this is something that's going out to the poets. You know, we're talking about fact checking and things that you say and the words that you say. You know, Rakim told me that, you know, Catholics will be waiting for him outside the show, or Muslims will be waiting for him outside the show to find out, you know, if this is correct what you're saying, brother. Do you know, is this information that you're putting out, you know, correct? Have you, Abiodine, been in a situation like, or Umar, been in situations where you've been questioned on some of the things that you said?
Huh?
Abiodine, do you hear me?
Say it again?
Oh, I said, have you ever been in a situation where you've been questioned on some of the information that you put out, where people try to test your facts?
Well, you know, people will try anything to, like, make you have less confidence in what you're doing if they can. I mean, for some reason, we still try to pull each other down sometimes. I think because, like Rakim was saying, and some other brothers, and Chuck D said too, You know, I learned a lot by being around older people who had information. And then there were books that were available. Destruction of the Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams, Crisis of the Negro Intellectual by Harold Cruz, Moon 2. I mean, and of course, The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. There were certain books that many of our brothers and sisters who were intelligent and knew what way we should be going, they had read a lot of stuff to give them some kind of heads up as to how we should move and how we should handle our business. And but we don't have a lot of people reading and doing the research to recognize that all of the stuff that we're going through has been studied and analyzed by many other people. And we can gain knowledge from just reading some information that has been passed on to us. But a lot of us don't do that. It's very important that we do, that we understand that we have to read, we got to research, and we have to study our people if we care about our people. You know, just walking the streets of Harlem and looking at the faces and trying to get a vibe of where your people are at. This is the work of a poet. This is the work, should be the work of hip hop, because we want to give them a message. We want them to be able to feel something that can give them a certain feeling of empowerment that will allow them to grow and be better than they were yesterday. We have a mission to try to improve ourselves, and by doing that, we should be improving our community and the people who listen to us. So I'm very proud of the fact that, you know, when Rakim speaks about how the last poets influenced him, we would not be in existence if Rakim wasn't in existence, because this is an extension of the last poets. When, you know, people talk about how we are the forefathers of hip hop and all that stuff, that's fine. Before Umar and I did that first album, poetry was basically quiet. Poetry wasn't loud. We put brass knuckles on the word and punch you in the face and gave it a whole platform that it didn't have before. And hip hop came and confirmed that by creating a whole movement of poetry with a heavy beat. And I'm proud of that, just because because of people like Rakim. There's been some clown stuff. There's been some stupid stuff that I do not endorse, but there's been some good stuff that I'm very appreciative of. And you have some people on here, Chubb Rock and Rakim, Chuck D, please. You brothers have represented, and I'm very proud of you, very much.
And let me add to what Dune is saying. Let me say this about me and Abigail Dune. There was no jealousy with me and Dune with the hip hop, or how much money they were making and how much, you know, notoriety they was getting. We loved hip hop because we knew that it was an extension of us, but we never hated them brothers because they made more money than us, or they got more acknowledgement than us. We knew they were a part of the lineage. They were coming after us. So when that day I was on stage with Rakim and I saw that, and he made it clear to me that, yeah, brother, we still are like y'all. We still know y'all. We still understand what y'all doing. And we just try myself. I'm just trying to be one of those young hip hop artists to make sure that you see this beauty that y'all brought to us. And I watched him distribute that beauty on stage that night. Because like I say, you know, we went to the hip hop museum, and it's in the in this building. I forgot the name of the building, but you see all these big hip hop exhibit floats on the wall and in the sky. But then there's that one little window in that museum that exhibits the last poets, and they got an album of the last poets, the first album of the last poets, and Dune's.
Oh, you're talking about the African American Museum in D.C.
In D.C., yeah, at the
Smithsonian, yeah.
Smithsonian.
So I wasn't afraid. I wasn't upset because they had the bigger exhibits or the things floating in the air, because it always pointed back. Everything that floated in the air and there was exhibited as hip hop pointed back to that little window with that last poets album. A lot of these brothers have always shown respect for us. A lot of them have never tried to, yeah, man, we better than last poets. A lot of these young brothers have always shown us respect, and we've always shown that respect back because we knew they were going to be somebody coming after us. We knew we weren't going to hold that lineage for that long, or that royalty or that crown for that long. So the ones who understood that and who respected that, we showed respect and love to them.
The issue that we got to try to remember, and it really gets me angry, how you divide certain things and you use words like relevance. Oh, whether or not you're relevant. And I get upset about that. If God woke me up, I'm relevant.
Right.
You know, I don't get involved with all of that other craziness. And then they come with buzzwords like whether you're old school or new school. There's no expiration date on brilliance and human beings.
Right.
You know, for me, man, we always got to keep and understand how you can tell a story and consistently tell it. See, Jewish people, if you watch television, there will be a million movies about the Holocaust. They don't want no one to lose sight on that history, right? They won't give you a chance to forget that history.
No, they won't.
We tend to have this thing where we want to move on. And it's like, move on. How do you move on without your history with you? And your history shouldn't be behind you. It should be right next to you as you move going forward.
Or being told to move on. Forget about it.
And that's the thing that I don't understand. I mean, that's why with hip hop, for me, you know, my kids or my wife might call me a hoarder, but I keep things. I keep things to remember what was important and things in history. Things that people throw away, I don't throw away. And the last poets and all their contributions, not just to hip hop, to music, to it's a part of the fabric that will always be there, that we always need to have, because even with young people, they are not going to learn certain things anymore. There's certain things that will never be in school anymore. That's what it is, period.
Yep.
And with this pandemic now, and that people are going to be homeschooling, that's going to continue. So you're going to see that Abdul said something about, he named all these books. There ain't going to be no more books.
Right.
They're trying to put away books. Right? They're not, let me tell you something that's interesting. They stopped school in February here and already told kids, because my son is 18, he's graduating. Oh, everybody's graduating. No tests. Rakim might remember this when we were growing up. We had to take 1 million Regents tests.
Right.
Goodness.
Right? They ain't no tests. So they already brought down the value of a diploma, because look at the college scandal with those ladies and stuff like that. They're trying to say, hey, man, you didn't have to really take no test to get into them school. Rakim might remember this. I don't know if you remember this scandal back in the day with these white folks that they were buying the SAT for their kids.
Right. Yeah.
On Long Island. And they're able to go into Harvard and all that with these SAT scores because they bought the scores. So the whole manipulation of education for us, for our kids, have to come from us, because all the various different things that they could have went to back in the day, like encyclopedias and everything, that does not exist anymore.
I want to introduce my sister, Jessica Kier Moore is here. 50th anniversary of The Last Poets. Jessica, thank you so much for being here.
I have to be here. Those are all my babas. There's all my teachers on here. Love you, Rod. Love you, Doon. Love you, Babatunde. Love you, Umar. I have a gig at 8. I'm online every day giving away this poetry to people who need to be lifted up. So I'm doing my work from my living room in Detroit. But just wanted to say, you know, to speak to what Chubb was talking about, the best thing that's happened to my Black child, my Black indigo son, is that I've got him away from these white teachers, and he's doing much better at home with me. And even though I'm not on the road and my tour was cut off and my money gone, I got my son back in a way that's invaluable. And I've learned so much about what they weren't giving him. And I've just been, you know, because he's like, well, Mommy, you give me all this extra work. And I was like, yeah, because they getting you to 8th, 9th grade. I'm trying to get you to manhood, and they can't get you to manhood. And so we have to take our children back. We have to take our babies back. We have to take our education back. They're not going to educate our children. The reason why people don't know about The Last Poets and don't understand that we're like, the hip hop is a continuum of poetry. There is no disconnect. I grew up listening to Rakim. But I knew who The Last Poets were. I knew who Sonia Sanchez and Dudley Randall was. I also know KRS-One and MC Lyte. Like, I grew up listening to hip hop, but I was reading books too. And there's a lot of us hip hop generation kids who came up reading, learning about the culture, and understanding. And there's kids now, I don't know how these babies know who I am. I have babies on my Instagram talking about I was 12 years old watching you win the Apollo. So I'm moving this because I got all kinds of stuff going on. They gonna have to just be. I got like 12. I got 12 gigs. I got 12 gigs every day.
Well, Jessica, thank you so much, baby.
On this one, okay. So I just want to give my love. I love y'all. If not for all of you, I would not be here. The Last Poets put me on my first gigs before I did the Apollo. Abiodun, you know, swooped me up. Umar saw me in Detroit, and I opened for them in 1994. I moved to Brooklyn in 95 and came uptown to 110 Morningside Drive, and they've been taking care of me ever since. So I love y'all. Without you, there would be none of us. Academia needs to celebrate you more. They need to teach you more in the classroom. But I'm doing my work. Every time I go into school, I bring up your names, Rakim included. And so I'm in the schools, I'm in jails, and I'm teaching your work, and your work continues on through all of us and through my son who's being come up in the culture as well. So all is not lost. There is hope. And I just love y'all, and happy anniversary.
Thank you, baby. Thank you so much.
Hey, Jessica.
Yes.
You know I'm up here in Flint, so when this stuff come down a little bit or whatever, or our governor lets us out, I'm gonna come down and see you.
You gotta come over, Umar. You could come over with a. We could social distance in my patio this summer, whatever.
All right.
All right. I love y'all.
Love you too, baby.
Thank you.
Love you back.
If you're tuning in just now, it's the 50th anniversary of The Last Poets, and it's all about bridging the gap. We'll be right back.
Selfish desires are burning like fire.
Welcome back to the 50th anniversary of The Last Poets. My name is Ralph McDaniels. It's all about bridging the gap. We have some special guests here that are also joining in with us. Chub Rock, Michael Holman, Rakim, talk about the spiritual growth that you had as a young man and how that connected to the sounds and the information that The Last Poets were putting out.
I think growing up listening to them at a young age, man, let me know that I could push the envelope. You know what I mean? It gave me, you know, confidence, you know what I mean? And just that assurance that, number one, it needed to be told, like we were speaking on a minute ago. Without The Last Poets, I think, you know, a lot of information we received would have been late. We understood the seriousness through their voice, you know what I mean? And it let us know that you know, things wasn't sweet. You know, coming up as a young kid, you listen to music and, you know, you hear your R&B and, you know, everything's good. But then when you hear The Last Poets, it's like, hold up, you know, it's something going on that we all need to pay attention to, man. And I think that just gave me, you know, that extra that extra assurance that I needed, man, to know that I can do the same, push the envelope, inform people and let them know what I felt and what the world feels they need to know. Well,
Did you feel a sense of
great?
Yes.
Rakim, do you feel a sense of responsibility when you get on that mic that you have, if you're going to be in front of brothers like Abiodun and Umar and Baba and Felipe?
Yes, indeed. So, I mean, I think knowing or having any kind of consciousness when I get on that platform, you know, not to use it to be ignorance. You know what I mean? And yes, I feel that I have a responsibility, having knowledge of self, to you know, inform as many people as I can. You know what I mean? And that's always.
We appreciate you, you know, man, and thank you for being here. You know,
honor, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. 50 years of The Last Poets. You know, I don't know if you can hang around for a little while, but I want to talk to Michael Holman. If not, I'm gonna let you go if you gotta go.
All right, I'm gonna hang around for as long as I can, bro. I'm still
okay.
here.
Thank you. So Michael, you know, you're a pioneer in the television and the visual world, and you know, I remember seeing The Last Poets on Soul, the TV show Soul on Channel 13.
Yep.
Am I right, Umar and Abiodun? Is that correct? Did y'all do the show with Ellis Hazlett Soul?
Yes.
Yeah, we did that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. That to me was like incredible because there wasn't a lot of black folks on television at that time, and I had the opportunity to, watch soul, and they would have like, the Last Poets, and they would have Stevie Wonder, and they would have some other, conscious.
Johnny Hathaway,
Johnny Hathaway. Yeah, tell us about that. That leading then to guys like me and Michael Holman.
We know that soul will be included in the television history of this decade when things go down. But because I hadn't seen enough images of myself, I watched. Should some unaware group of people take soul off, I won't see black people creating, searching, and acting instead of reacting.
That program was so beyond its time that it was in time.
And the moment that went on that television, it went boom, we're back.
I just had images of blacks all around the country saying, yes, yes, tell them yes.
Black voices speaking to the problems of our time.
This is serious business. Our lives were at stake.
There exists, as far as I know, no TV program that deals with my culture so completely, so freely, and so beautifully. There is no alternative to soul.
Soul was special because there was nothing on television like soul then, and there's nothing on TV like soul now. Because, Ellis took a big chance because he would mix a strong black nationalist speaker with say a group like Earth, Wind and Fire or Donny Hathaway and the Last Poets. You don't see anything remotely close to that now. So soul really represented what the title of the show was about. It represented the soul of black folks.
Yes. So, Umar, were you on that program, Umar?
Yeah, I was. Come on. After, like I said, doing it, all the other poets left to do other things. Me and Jalal, he had us. He had us on that show 2 times, and listen, it was a very important show, not to us, but to be on that show because that's the first time I became acknowledged to the Last Poets because it was Abby O'Doon and God and Kane was on that show. When I saw them in Ohio, I said, Last Poets, who these guys? What are they doing? But they was doing the best they can, presenting themselves as who they were. And so it was a very important show. It showed me that I wanted to become a Last Poet, and that's what I did. I went searching through this Antioch College, that a gig that Dune and the Last Poets was on. And
move your thumb.
Oh, move my thumb? So I said, I wanted to be a Last Poet. So I came up to the, I was head of security at the time. This is a story a lot of people have heard. I was head of security, and I was strapped. I had a 45 and a 38 under my jacket. So Doom comes in, Abby O'Doon, and his voice was much deeper then even it is now. Well, I'm Abby O'Doon. We were the Last Poets. I said, wait a minute, brother, I'm security. I got to check y'all out. No, we don't get checked in. No, brother, we don't get checked. I said, well, brother, please, y'all. I said, no, we're not checking in. So I pulled up my jacket and showed him my guns. I said, either you check in or you check out. So June let me check him in. He finally let me check him in. But then he got on stage and dissed me because he said, who's that crazy motherfucker y'all got at the door? They're going to probably kill all of us. So that's how that's how I met Dune and all the things I heard about them and seen them on the show. I wanted me to go check them out again. So it was a very important show, man. We love Elder Sexton. Everybody dug Elder Sexton, man. He was a nice guy, and he treated and respected us as decent human beings. So we had no problem with that show, Elder.
Yeah, I think that, when by the time I got to television in the early 80s, it was all about uplifting, Michael. We wanted to make our people look good, and the culture look good, right?
Yeah. I wanted to, coming from California, not being a native New Yorker, I wanted to share a perspective about the Last Poets. I don't think anybody's really given today, just because I have that advantage of this objective point of view. I'm in high school in 1970 when the Last Poets album comes out, at least, in San Francisco, Lowell High School. And it sent shockwaves across the whole Bay Area. You have to understand, in '68, James Brown comes out with Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud. And that changed the whole script. I mean, everybody was like, wait a second, did he just say that? Did he just put out a record that said that? But it was contextualized in a way that was able to be served on radio. It was James Brown. We all love James Brown. But 2 years later, when the Last Poets came out with their first album, and we all heard it in San Francisco. San Francisco is a very black, brown, colored city. I mean, there's a lot of people of color in that city, believe me. When we heard that record, it changed everything because it was a shock to the system. And listening to everyone for the last hour or so, I heard terms like black nationalism and militancy and revolution. And that is how it sounded to the ear for the first time when you heard that music, when you heard that poetry. But as I'm listening now and I'm thinking about everything that the Last Poet said in those days, I'm realizing that it wasn't necessarily black nationalism or militancy or revolution. It was simply our truth. It was simply self-love. It was simply just simply people saying, we're beautiful. And in the way that the black poets, the Last Poet said it, sounded militant to the establishment. The way that the Last Poets said self-truth and self-realization sounded like militancy, sounded like black nationalism to everybody, to us too, to black kids, to white, to everybody. It was just a shock to the system. And it was such an awakening. It was such a beautiful moment. I remember we were just so, everybody in that school, because in Lowell High School is kind of a private school and there weren't many people of color there. We were so proud to be able to say, yo, have you heard the Last Poets, to have our Last Poet album. All I wanted to say was that point, that what sounded like nationalism, what sounded like anger, what sounded like revolution was really just us respecting ourselves and telling the truth.
Right.
And it sounded like anger, it sounded like hostility, but it wasn't. And one other thing I wanted to say as an armchair anthropologist, you don't hear this a lot. People talk, but again, I'm coming from California and hearing these East Coast revolutionary cadence delivery from the Last Poets, this sing-song style of da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-ba, ba-ba-ba-ba. It was a style that we didn't hear on the West Coast. And we knew instantly this was like a New York thing. This was like a black New York thing. And we woke up as these high school kids to the idea that, wow, as much as we had the Black Panthers and the Hells Angels and the whole peace and love of Summer of Love in California and all the revolution that happened in California, we recognized instantly when we heard the Last Poets and their delivery, and then later on Gil Scott-Heron and that ilk, we recognized instantly that New York was a source, a center of revolution, of uplift, of new voices, standing up and brave and strong and proud and not afraid. And it was that sing-song style that I hear later on in documentaries when I see some of even the gangs of New York, some of the gangs of the Bronx, when they're having that peace treaty at the boys club, and you hear the kids, this is before the term yo, you hear the kids speaking in this cadence. It was like a New York thing. It's like, say, you know, like wow, man, like he didn't believe me when I tried to tell him I was bringing the peace, man, like, wow. It had this ba-ba, and it had this beauty to it that as a West Coast kid, I was like, wow, oh, I gotta live in New York. New York is so genius. What is it about New York? And when I came to New York in '74 for the first time to visit, and came to Bethesda Fountain, around the Bethesda Fountain, and on a Sunday afternoon, and everybody, there's like 50, 70 radios all turned to BLS, and people are doing the Latin hustle, and they're doing the bus stop, and it's this exciting moment. It was my injection of New York that made me say, I've got to come back. And when I did come back after school, after college in '78, I've never left and got deep into culture. But it was really the Last Poets and that new language, that new sound of Black intellectualism and poetry and revolution, really, that drew so many people to New York and drew the light on New York, that I think gave a real platform years later for hip hop.
Well, I think that the key is the drum, you know.
Right, yeah, brother, that's what I wanted to mention, Ralph. The drum the drum really put everything in its proper place, because we had words to say that were like bullets coming out of our mouths, but they were accurate and they were accentuated because we used the drum. And we have to realize the drum was forbidden. We could not play the drums in America. There was only one place, and that was Congo Square in New Orleans, where they allowed the drums to play. I think on a Sunday or something like that. And that
the only place in America where drums were allowed to be played is in Congo Square. In other places in America, the Protestants had a stronghold on damaging our cultural connection, or just the fact that the drums were able to communicate. So if you were from Ghana, or you from Senegal, or you play a rhythm, or you play this, they will know there's a connection, and the drums are loud. So they knew that when they went to Cuba and they went to Brazil, and they know that they maintained some of those religious backgrounds and rhythms and cultural links. In America, they said, we're not having it. So that's the only reason why. The only reason why we even have jazz in America is because of New Orleans. Because New Orleans was not part of America at the time.
Wow.
And with the Louisiana Purchase, they bought everything. You want to connect the country together. That's what you did, but you also connected culture. So you brought our ancestors. That was our ancestors doing that. They didn't know. Sometimes people think that they are in control. And they think they are in control. They think they know what they do. They think they can make a Frankenstein and this is that. But this is something, you're dealing with subconscious mind. You're dealing with something beyond yourself. You gotta. It's not you who are in control.
I just want to say by the '60s, the conga, the bongos in the park, drinking wine on Sunday afternoon. That was ubiquitous. I mean, that was all over the West Coast. It was everywhere. But how it was different than New York was the poetry, was the Last Poets, was the speeching, the discussion, the conversation.
But in Roomba,
we didn't have that on the West Coast. We didn't have that.
In Roomba, you always have that conversation with drum and voice, telling the story. But here we have the Last Poets creating the same story within our own context, within our own rhythm structure, and with Elijah creating those rhythm structures. So that was the mind-blowing thing, even for me, because at that time, I was like, I'm like everybody else, like, wow, look at that, the drum grabs your attention. And then you're listening to the words. Elijah had a way of putting the drums down where it didn't interfere with the words at all. So it was like a marriage between the two sounds. So that I would sit back and listen to the album. My mom was with a group called Blackfrica, which was another black arts movement in Harlem. And I believe the Last Poets and everything was all involved with Blackfrica, Lloyd Williams, and all these people that created this organization. And we were family. I mean, family with them. So when I heard the Last Poets, we're like, wow, hit the word nigger on a record. That was it. And then Gash Man, we knew what that was about, but it was not just about the sex. It was about the disrespect of women. It wasn't. I got that message. It was like we got the message as youth. We got the message that there was being not that we got caught up in the words and the feeling, but we knew what it was underneath that meaning, what it was really talking about. Motherfucker, get your shit together. You with your alligator shoes. You know what I'm saying? That was like Mr. Pimp. So we got that message, and we were living with that, and that was part of my development. That was when I met Dune. It was like, I was like, awestruck, like, man, wow, Last Poet, and that's how we come together, and that's how we learn each other. And but the music, I was about, that was part of my world, and part of the world that I was involved in. We were talking about liberation. We were talking about a lot of different things of self empowerment. In camp, wasn't Camp Innocent, and we were doing stuff, man. We were painting our cock sticks. For the cock sticks, when you stretch your cock, the cock, and you stretch it. So when we use that, we painted that red, black, and green, and we were walking around. We had our own little thing going on, and it kind of knocked them out a little bit because they were dealing with the Feathermen and all this stuff, and we kind of created another fraternity that was away from that. But you know, that just happened. It's just a happenstance. But it was an embodiment of all of those elements that came together to make what we are, you know, what we became. So yeah, I mean, and the using the drum is the voice, the drum is the pipeline.
Mm.
You know, just
The original
communications, and we still have to use it for communication. It's
the hypodermic. The hypodermic.
It's like it's organic. It's organic.
Question. Whenever you guys can.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Chuck.
That's a question to the last poets. In recent days, we've been able to get certain papers of COINTELPRO of Malcolm X with a lot of redacted papers. Did you guys ever see the COINTEL papers on the last poets? You guys ever see them?
No, we haven't, man. We have not. We know they're there.
That's something that you can actually get now because the statute of limitation has gone past. That's why they're able to get the COINTEL papers of Malcolm X, even though they redacted 60.
Well, I know one thing. I met my personal FBI agent.
Okay.
Yeah, we were all assigned a particular agent. I happened to be a part of the Yoruba village in South Carolina, and they sent an agent down there back in the early 70s to see what was going on with that this African village. And of course, because it's the Yoruba religion, and you have the power of divining and finding out what's going on before people know. They knew there was a spy coming from the FBI to be a part of the cultural movement in South Carolina. The name of the village is Oyotunji, and it's a Yoruba village right there near, it's about 50 miles outside of Savannah, Georgia. And the agent went down there and he disappeared. I mean, and nobody knows what happened. So one day when I'm in prison, I get this call to the back hall, and I'm trying to figure out who's visiting me, because normally when you get a visit in prison, you get a heads up to kind of know who's coming to see you. So when I went to the back hall, I see this little white guy, and he says, "My name is Mr. Greenberg, and I was assigned to you in 1968. And I'm trying to figure out, I'm a poet. Why would an FBI agent be assigned to me? And I said, I'm really just stunned. And he says, well, you were saying some rather subversive things, and Jay thought we ought to maybe just keep an eye on you. And they knew everything about me. So I said, well, what brings you here to the Central Prison? He says, well, we sent an agent down to see what was going on with this village that I think you're a part of. Aren't you a part of it? I said, yes, I am a part of it. And he says, and our agent was reporting to us every week, but then he stopped reporting. We haven't heard from him, and it's been a few months, and we thought you might have an idea of what happened. I said, if you know where I've been, you've been clocking me all this time. I've been in prison. How would I know what happened to your agent? And I said, let me tell you something. If you all sent a spy to Oyotunji to see what those brothers and sisters are doing in that, which is just a little cultural replica of Africa, I mean, it's like anything could have happened to the agent. We could be actually just breathing him right now. He could be in the air. I mean, you're messing with people that know magic. Why would you do that? That's not smart. I have no idea what happened to your agent. And if he was snooping around, the people he came to snoop on, they knew that he was not a good person. And anything could have happened. I can't tell you what happened. I'm in here. I don't know what happened.
Well, let me tell you, right after that, and I don't know if Rakim knows this, but the FBI, they didn't call it COINTELPRO, but they had something similar when the knowledge of self movement started in hip hop. So Rakim, Kane, KRS, I came from under those guys, X-Clan, and then the whole X-Clan movement that had Queen Mother Rage and that whole movement. So they had something that started then for hip hop. I think later on they called it the tag papers. During your time, it was the COINTELPRO, and during Malcolm X's time. And so those things happen. I don't think they will ever happen now, because there's no real
it's your cell phone
atmosphere. There's no real atmosphere.
You got the cell phone. You have to go there.
Of it right now.
Yeah.
But you know, it's
you are being tracked every day.
Yeah, it's being tracked anyway. But I don't know if Rakim knew about that, man. Once that brilliance in hip hop started, that knowledge of self, man, they were like, wait. What's gonna happen? What's happening here?
Paranoid.
And they were watching it. They were watching it real close, man, real close.
Anytime you're a thief, you're always gonna watch because you know you did something wrong, and you're waiting for some kind of retribution. They know but we are the nicest people on the planet. We have not paid them back for all the stuff they've done to us, and they know that they deserve to be paid back. They have done horrible things and continue to do so. They live in a serious state of paranoia because they know somebody's going to get them for what they're doing. What we need to do is pull the plugs on them and let them get themselves. They're self-destructive people. They'll eat each other. We need to live and build with each other and stop supporting them, pull our wires out of their sockets, and go ahead and start living for us. That's the only, that way, because see, we're dealing with a child. That orange clown in the Oval Office is a kid. He's a big orange clown kid. He doesn't know jack, and he loves attention. He wants to be, he's suffering from narcissism. He's got a real problem. He needs to not get their attention, and he'll dry up like a prune. He doesn't have anything worthwhile to talk about or think about. He doesn't even know what he's doing. We need to be about doing something that's going to benefit us, and we can do that in spite of this character. He doesn't stop us from doing what we have to do. We need to recognize we need to be building now, doing everything possible to raise us up, help us in every way possible, writing poems and songs and raps that give us some insight as to our brilliance, who we are, trying to make each other feel better. We got folks walking around here dying from depression, and we can change that with our music. Our music has always been medicine, and now is the time to bring it out.
I say.
But the wonderful thing is about as young men, every time we got up on stage, we were not worried about the COINTELPRO. We were not worried about crowds coming in, taking us off stage. We got up on stage with a power that we believed in ourselves, and that we would do the right thing for our community. So there was no fear there. There was no fear there. And the more we got into that, the more we understand that we are in control of this, not some death squad or some COINTELPRO, unit. We control who the last poets are, and we let nobody take that away from us. And that's why we are still here now at 70, 71 years old, because I mean, that attitude that took us has taken me through drug addiction and alcoholism. The problem that I'm solving is not about somebody else. It's my problem. As long as I deal with my problem and keep the eye on my problem, I ain't got time to worry about nobody else or be afraid of nobody else. Because I just got to worry about the things, the instincts, the problems, the situations that are going to keep me, that I'm going to put on myself to keep myself in this position. So we were never afraid of that, man. We were never worrying about the police or death squads or anything. We knew we had a mission for the black people, and we stuck to that idea, to that notion, to that premise. This is for black people.
Well, you know what I'm going to do right now, we have some other folks that have sent in some messages, and they want to talk to you guys. I'm going to, Brother Rakim and Brother Chub Rock and Brother Mike, do you want to say some closing words to the last poets right now?
Sorry.
No, go ahead, my brother.
Thank you very much, Rakim, man. Man, props, man.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you. I have to leave, and I just want to tell you what an honor it is, Ralph. Thank you, and to be on with Rakim and to be on with the last poets and Baba. I mean, it's just a real honor, and thank you very much. Thank you for this.
Thank you for taking.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Rakim?
And yes, man, I want to thank you, brothers, from the bottom of my heart, man. You know what I mean? You gave me so much insight, and it's like, you laid down the blueprint on how to get the proper messages across. You know what I mean? And I appreciate that very much, man. Just want to say thanks again, and peace and blessings, and like that.
Rakim.
Up, y'all, man. Yes, sir.
Rakim.
Yes, sir.
Listen, I hope somewhere in the future we can get on stage together again and do that dance that we did that night in Columbus, man. I ain't never forgot it, baby boy.
No doubt, man. Hey, yo, hopefully, man.
And the conversation we had upstairs, I ain't forgot that, man. So when I heard that you were gonna be in, so when I heard that you was gonna be on today, I was truly excited. But you stay strong, baby boy. And
Hey,
I
no
see that
doubt,
you have,
man.
and you be blessed, man.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I made it had to make sure that I can, come in and give some love to the brothers that gave me so much love, man. Appreciate y'all. Much more success. We need some more of that. And
thank you, brother.
Anything y'all need from me, I'll be there, man. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you, baby. Be blessed. Be blessed, baby.
Much love to everybody else, man. Ralph, appreciate you, man. Everybody else. And Baba, I love y'all.
Yes.
Blessings.
On the one.
Hey, Chubb, any closing words?
Yeah, I mean, you guys were the breadcrumbs that we had to follow, man. You was giving us a path to follow, and without judgment as young hip hop cats. And I'd just like to thank you for that. When I got the email, I couldn't even believe it was a reality to be able to even be in your presence and to just listen to so much knowledge and so much bravery. And I hope that in our generation, we have that same bravery, because we need it even more now.
Yes, sir.
Because there's so much chaos and so much lost situations. For me, I play those records to my son the same way I play Paid in Full, and the way I play my philosophy or things that I grew up with. And you guys were just the coffee, man, that woke up so many of us.
Right.
And I'd like to thank you for that, because that caffeine was very much needed. That was very needed.
Right.
And I just, wish you guys health and strength. And one of the biggest gifts you can ever give someone besides life is knowledge.
That's it.
And you guys have given so much knowledge, and I really appreciate that. And I appreciate this forum, and I appreciate everyone being here, and it was incredible. So I wish you all blessings.
All right, you be safe, baby. Thank you.
Legacy.
Thank you.
Definitely.
You're watching the 50th anniversary of The Last Poets. Don't go nowhere. We're coming right back. It's Bridging the Gap. Rob, thanks, sir.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is the legendary DJ Battle Cat out of Los Angeles, California, where West Coast hip-hop royalty lives. It is an honor to celebrate the individuals and the collective members of The Last Poets. So let me start off by saying that this tribute to the 50th anniversary of The Last Poets' first LP is mind-blowing itself. As a young kid in the 70s, listening to this record was not only life-changing, it was also insightful to the outside world and the reality that we all face today. I must say that this album, The Last Poets, was ahead of its time. Reason is, the true architect and essence of rap today are The Last Poets. You really have to go back and take a look at history. Before hip-hop was born in the Bronx, these guys were showing us early on that poetry was the landscape to reach, teach, and educate the minds of the people. To be effective, though, they needed a message that would inspire and change equality, which they did so. So on the behalf of the West Coast family, my music family, which are Dr. Dre, DJ Quick, DJ Pooh, Above the Law, Bobcat, Crazy Tunes, rest in peace, and myself, just to name a few, were very instrumental in keeping the shock value of the West Coast culture and story alive worldwide. The Last Poets, as well as Charles White and the Watts Prophets, were powerful in showing us, rather in a song or spoken word, that we could be effective with the First Amendment. So happy anniversary to the hearts of The Last Poets, and on the behalf of the West Coast, we love you. God bless.
What up, everybody? Davey D out here, Oakland, California, originally from the Boogie Down, Soundview section of the Bronx. Saying, first of all, thank you to The Last Poets as we celebrate your 50th anniversary. And when I say thank you, I'm saying thank you not just because you all gave a trail for us in the hip hop generation to follow. Yes, you all did good rhymes. You all had good spoken words. But what we really admired and got from you was your commitment, your love, and your upliftment of the community. That I think is very, very special. And I personally really, really appreciate it. I always remember growing up here in the Last Poets. And so years later, when I moved out here and I was doing radio on KMEL, one of the greatest gifts that I ever had was you, Odum, and you, Omar, coming to the station. And I pulled this out just for this occasion. My daughter's going to show it to you right here. This is an old school reel-to-reel. And it's on this reel-to-reel that I did something that you all said never happened before. We edited down one of your famous pieces, Niggas Are Scared of Revolution, and we played it on the air. Now, there was a lot of editing, but we got it on the air, we played it, and more importantly, all our listeners had a chance to really hear your wisdom and benefit from it. So, again, thank you to the Last Poets. Happy 50th, and you know what? I want you all to have 50 more. So, peace.
Wow, 50 years, huh? I want to give big love to Babatunde, Umar, Abiodun, aka Pops, and of course the members who are still here and those who are ancestors. Make sure you check out the entire catalog of the Last Poets to see how deep, how fly, how fresh all the members are, and of course were. Big love. I love y'all for the lessons, for the love, for the leadership, for the community, for the culture. Peace. My name is Ty Allen, and I'm lucky enough to be a godson of Dune and the rest of the poets. One love.
When you look at me and my brothers, what's your first impression? Does the sight of us leave you guessing, or do you understand the stressing, the aggression? The look of no hope on me and my niggas' faces, like the Lord overlooked us when he handed down his graces. You see embraces fall short on the numb tips with street entrepreneurial fingers, still stuck in the walls of the project halls where the coke smell still lingers. External blingers is all we can be, because on the inside we've been given nothing to shine on. And the record deal's harder to get than coke, so my niggas get their grind on, because the TV tells us aim high, nigga, make all goals lateral. But see, that takes paper that we don't have, so niggas put their souls up as collateral. Now, some niggas reclaim them, some blame them, make an excuse to sell them. But when a nigga goes from not doing to doing, what can you tell him? Not to be a nigga? Shit, I got to be a nigga, that's how I pay the bills. And I'm gonna do that whether I got to sling this coke or exploit these rhyme skills. And see, America makes you an opportunist, and at the same time, they institutionalize you. So the fact that these niggas get big record deals, big money, and then go to jail shouldn't surprise you. That's what lies do. Now, most of these guys do have raw talent, but just an infantile education, so the business feeds you all the weed and ecstasy and a little bit of paper to provide some pacification from all the bullshit frustration they serve you. Meanwhile, they corrupt your perception of what the real is. So they taking all our businessmen and giving them the mindsets of drug dealers. Took all our messengers, made them rappers, just flapping their jaws, afraid to admit their treason. Took all our soldiers for the cause, made them killers for no reason. And being fucked up, well, that's in this season. So if you're negative, you're positive. And if you're positive, you're called a hater. But I maintain control of my soul, because I know it gets greater later. And I told y'all the last show, shit, nigga no hater. I just know where the truth is. Been intertwining this pudding for about a year now, so I know where the proof is. It lies in these midtown Manhattan skyscrapers where former hustlers like myself sign papers and pull off fucked up capers like 16 infamous stars at a time. They got us chopping and bagging and serving that shit to niggas 16 bars at a time now. The crime is undetectable by the feds, because in the heads of our kids is where the track is. And music is potent. It's straight to the soul, so it's much more addictive than crack is. Now, the high is just an illusion, all lies and confusion, but to feel that rush just once, my young bucks will go through it. So in essence, they still flooding the streets with the thugs, drugs, and killing. They just using these record labels to do it. Taking our heartfelt demos, putting us in limos, trying to fuck up divine direction. But young black men have been trained to chase money and pussy. So we fall victim to our own erection and begin to convince ourselves we're on our way somewhere where we're not going. But ignorance is bliss, and niggas love this. So niggas take pride not knowing. We not growing. Nigga, I give a fuck how slick you flowing. If you ain't showing nothing to these kids or add nothing positive to the earth. Black ice been destined to touch the world ever since I was born. To be real, fuck a record deal. God gives me what I'm worth. The Last Poets, Babas, thank you so much. You shaped my pen, you shaped my character, you shaped my perspective in the best way. I love you dearly. Y'all know that. Yeah.
If it weren't for you. If it weren't for you, this world would be lackluster and mute. These hearts would only be heads, too heavy laden with too many thoughts and none of them bearing the mark of love. Who else gonna do what you do? Who else gonna be a safe haven when the destructive ones try to paint our heaven the color of their hell? Who else gonna speak a word to shift the world as we know it into a world of our dreams? Who else gonna speak to our dreams? Who else gonna remind us that in order to transcend toxic times, we must ascend into the beauty of knowing, loving, and being our gorgeous black selves? Who else gonna be a beacon when the day grows dark and the mind follows? I'm telling you, if it weren't for you, for your bravery and courage and care, for your sacrifice, wisdom, and fight, for your influence, inspiration, and insight, so for your 50, all the way to your forever, we are indebted and so in love with you.
Peace, this is Daddy-O from Stetson Sonic. I want to say congratulations to the last poet. You know, before I left New York, I don't live there anymore, Will Robertson and I was working on the Umar bin Hassan album, and Umar was just such a pleasure to work with, and the wisdom and just the stories and being able to be with him every day was dope. I met Abby O'Doon through my cousin Haji, my uncle Haji actually, that lives in Ghana right now, Obar. So shout out Abby O'Doon. And I wanted to do a poem. I don't do a lot of poems because I rap. I wanted to do a poem just because the last poets, and that's how I got influenced to do poetry. So it's called Legal Aid. Excuse me, officer. Could I trouble you for a boost? See, my car's just around the block and don't nobody seem like they want to stop for me. Huh? Yeah, right around the corner. It's a brown Chevette. Bought it from my mother-in-law. Should have known better. No, don't bother. I'll get my own jump cables. I just left them out right here on the back seat. What was that, officer? Well, pardon me, sir, for asking, but why would you be concerned with the contents of my ashtray? I just asked you for a boost. Hey, wait a minute. You can't search my... All right, it's a half a joint, for God's sakes. You couldn't possibly... I can't believe this is happening. I just needed a boost. The station house? For what? A half a joint? Now that's some shit, huh? So much for Legal Aid. Shout out to Last Poets.
Selfish desires are burning like fire.
This has been incredible, 50 years of the Last Poets. I'm glad that we're here. You know, of course, in the world of social media, how do people get in contact with you? I understand there's a website where people can find out for merchandise and other information. Felipe, you know that website?
www.lastpoets.com.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And how do we find you? Are you on social media as well?
I'll give you my email. Felipe, that's spelled Felipe, Felipe J. Luciano @gmail.com.
Yes. Umar, how about you?
We on Last Poets on Facebook. Last Poets Facebook.
Okay,
there you go.
Umar Baba and I'm doing as well. So
everybody on Facebook.
Yes,
And
we want to thank you. Yes.
Listen, I'm at Umar the Last Poet @gmail.com. Okay. Umar the Last Poet @gmail.com.
Ramadan21 @gmail.com.
Would you like to say anything to all the guests that tuned in today and some of the guests that we had on with you?
Stay strong and be safe. Stay strong and be safe. Stay strong and be safe.
So would I like to say something to those guests?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I would like to. I was glad that those guests came, those poets and those other people who were behind the lines who have put this together, because we appreciate every little bit of, adoration and love that we can get, because from the last poets to who the last poets are now, we've all worked at this very hard to keep this idea going. So yeah, I'm very much involved and happy and appreciative of what all the people, especially to see brother Kareem again. So yeah, I appreciate y'all doing this. Everybody who's part of this.
How you doing?
Yes. this has been a very remarkable moment because I got a chance to see some people I haven't seen for some time, and I love Chuck and I love Rakim, and it was just, and to see Umar and Babatunde and Felipe. I mean, I know we're not seeing each other physically, but to see each other using these gadgets is still refreshing because I know my brothers are alive and well, and I do hope that we can get together on stage again. We did do something on stage this past summer. It was called Soul at the Center, and it was a brief moment. Matter of fact, many people in the audience were upset that we only had a short time. But the truth is that there will be other things, as they say, if the creek don't rise and God is willing, we will do some other things together. I want to thank you, Ralph, for just being so gallant and actually hosting this whole thing, because a lot of people, might see us as something that was a part of some antique furniture, and we don't exist. But the fact is that you give us new life by allowing us to be on your show, and I want to thank you very much for that. And I want to thank you for all of the work that you have done, because somebody mentioned earlier about the word consistent. You've been very consistent, and I believe in consistency as well. And as long as we're consistent about the mission that we've decided to be on, we will see some success down the line.
Well, you know what? And in closing, I want to say this. Like when I thought about doing this project, and I said, wait a minute, these guys called themselves the Last Poets. Like, who had the gall to come up with that name? We the last ones. Nobody gonna come after us.
It's almost like what Muhammad speaks. It's a nation based on newspaper.
Yes.
You know what they call it now, right?
The final call.
The final call. That's the same thing with the Last Poets. We were giving you the final call. It's like,
hey, listen, I didn't think I was going to live this long. I didn't think I was going to live long enough to see my grandchildren.
Thank you, Felipe.
Thank you for that. I know Omar and I, we're street guys. Abiodun is a much more ethical, disciplined cat. But I was from the position that, no, he is. Umar and I come from a whole nother thing, and we didn't think we were going to make it. But somehow the poetry, the spirituality of the poetry has kept us human.
And our ancestors, Felipe, and our ancestors watching over.
That's right. Now, the wonderful thing about this is I'm connected to this family. I was from the beginning. The Young Lords, I said, the Young Lords came subsequently, came after. Everything TV came after. Frankie Crock and WLIB. I won two Emmy Awards for reporting, but it came from the feeling that I got from the streets with the Last Poets. I hope to God that people understand one day that we are beyond the Rolling Stones. We are the epitome of a group that has kept it together for 50 years. Now, I am close to Abiodun. I love his children. They are my nephews. I'm crazy about them, every one of them. I'm crazy about Umar because Umar comes from a street thing and redemption. He's been able to redeem himself. And it doesn't mean that the street can't come out of him, but he's calmed down tremendous. He's taught me a lot. I love Babatunde. I know his father. I know his brothers. It's amazing. And his mother, and I didn't meet his mom, but I went to her funeral and I did something for her. I did a poem and I didn't even know her. I'm crazy about all of these guys. And David Nelson, who we call the Holy Ghost, is running around there somewhere and he calls us all the time. And I think at one point, hopefully, we'll be able to do this again live. And by the way, I'm not crazy about this virtual reality bullshit. I like to be near Abiodun. I would have done the poem better if I was near Dune and Umar and Baba. Because when you're near the guys, you can't fuck up. They're watching you. So I'm like, I want to be near my brothers and sisters. Fuck that thing of we can do this. Separation is wonderful, but I want to get past this. And as one old 90-year-old man, Arthur Barnes, told me, he's not old, like I call it, if they say he's old, they're going to kill me. He said, Felipe, this too shall pass. This too shall pass. And we're going to get beyond this. Of course, you keep social distance. Watch your diet. Watch because we're dying because we have a predisposition to diabetes and heart problems and hypertension. But we are going to get past this. Already, the youth are talking about new diets, new education. We got to get past this. And I'm telling you, the new warriors are no joke. And I'm telling you, this Trump wants civil war, and he's going to get it if he keeps fucking up like this. We got to be ready.
He's trying. He's trying very hard.
We are going to close out right now.
Very hard.
We are going to close out right now. We have
can't kill a virus.
Thank you, and we are going to play some performances and just celebrate the last poets 50. Thank you, gentlemen.
And thank you, brother.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Adios.
Thank you.
Thank you, Baba. Dune, I hope to see y'all soon. Rocky, everybody.
Good to see you all today.
All right. Take care, Dune.
So we're working.
Yeah, we're talking about the Panthers, y'all. The very spine of us. The very reason many of us wanted to be black. Wear in black clothes and be black-minded and take care of black folks in the black community. Talking about the Panthers, y'all. The heart of our existence.
I used to run with a clan that was militant. Preparing for war, we studied strategies with diligence. The revolution was our real intent. We had to put our theory to work so we could find out what it really meant. Then I was sent to Chicago, Illinois, the place where the most Black Panthers were destroyed. You either push dope, locked down, or unemployed. Hearing shots late at night keep the people paranoid.
Have you ever read Seeds of Time? I read it when I was 16 and it freed my mind. Coming up on them dirty South Florida roads, being exposed to the Panther codes make me a soldier, a child of the 10-point platform in rap form. Word to this Huey P tatted on my left arm. It's for life, cause if it wasn't for the Panthers, the real OGs like Akua